to make their website user experience seamless and simplify access to product information for customers. We build enterprise websites like this all the time. Through a fully integrated digital transformation, WagnerSprayTech.com is now a fast, mobile-optimized website with an engaging user experience. For complete website and digital solutions, go to AmericanEagle.com.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Congratulations, Mom and Dad. Your life now revolves around sports. Well, you wouldn't trade it for anything. Welcome to Sporthood. DSG. Only a dick.
Golf? It's always bigger in Texas. A remarkable round of golf. Oh! You are kidding me. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, this is amazing.
It's awesome.
It's a party out here.
Live is lit. Crushers start the party here in Dallas.
Where do you go to a golf tournament and get an amazing concert? Nowhere but Live Golf.
Get your tickets to Live Golf Dallas.
Wait, I thought Venmo was for paying people.
Yeah, and for everything else.
Everything.
Everything.
Here they come, yo. Here they come. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, if this is where it's at. Hey!
Now you can Venmo everything.
Hungry?
Get the Venmo debit card, get up to 15% cash back. Get the Venmo debit card, get up to 15% cash back.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Fanatics Fest is returning to New York City next weekend. Pro athletes, celebrities, and fans are going to be gathering at the Javits Center for a celebration of all things sports and collectibles. Joining us right now is Fanatics CEO Michael Rubin. And Michael, it's great to see you here.
Great to be here always.
So last year was the first Fanatics Fest. It was huge. I attended it with my kid, walked through the place. It was unbelievable. We spent a long time there. This year, it's way bigger.
Well, the crazy thing was we had no idea what to expect last year. It was like, you know, we had this big idea, like, why do sports fans not have a festival? You've got music festivals, you've got Comic-Con, you've got trading card shows, but there was no real sports festival, and we just kind of went for it. 3 weeks earlier, we're like, why are we doing this? Should we cancel this? And 70,000 people came out. It was incredible, some of the biggest athletes in the world. And the thing that I most enjoyed was seeing sports fans just so happy. It's like you said, how much time did you spend there when you went?
A long time.
Right.
The entire
and there's
day.
just so many things to do. We brought the NFL, the NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, WWE, UFC all together with great activations. This year, in addition to all those 6 sports properties coming back, we've got FIFA, Premier League, F1, Nike, Dick's Sporting Goods, USDA all coming, and some of the biggest athletes in the world this year.
I was going to say, it's the star power that you bring in and the entertainment aspects to it that go with it.
Yeah, I mean, this year we have LeBron James coming. I just saw Victor Wembanyama. He's doing something amazing in China now. He's coming right back from China for this. Kevin Durant coming again. He came last year with Ant right from the Olympics with the gold medal.
Brady was there last year.
Yeah, Brady. We actually moved it from August.
Yeah, I was going to say, why did you move it from August?
Because you can't have active NFL players in June, and we want to have all the active NFL guys. So we've got, I think, nearly half of the starting NFL quarterbacks coming. I mean, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Russell Wilson, Joe Burrow, Bryce Young. So many of the top guys coming. Across all sports. I think there's going to be like 300 to 400 athletes, celebrities, artists. Jay-Z's coming back this year with the 40-40.
The 40-40 club that you put on that brings all of these athletes in.
Yeah, and that was fascinating. Travis Scott's coming this year. Kevin Hart's coming this year. I just saw Kevin Hart's doing Cold as Balls with his show. He's doing it with Victor. To see those two together, one guy about 7'6", one guy about 3'6", that's going to make for some amazing content.
Another one that you've got is Kevin Costner's coming in, and he's going to be interviewed by Michael Strahan. They're going to be talking about the best sports movies of all time. I guess you got Field of Dreams, Bull Durham.
And he's made a few great movies. The great thing is we have so much incredible content to watch. Last year, we really had 2 stages that had content during the entire 3 days. This year, we've got 6 stages with content going the entire time. So there's so many great things to watch.
I get your point that there's never been a sports fest like this that's gone on before. How do you make money on this? It's not just ticket sales that come in.
I mean, look, the reality is we did it last year. We lost about $14, $15 million.
So why do you do it?
It's just great for our brand. It's a great way to connect with sports fans. If I really think about what my dream is for Fanatics, we want the brand to be beloved, not big, okay? This is something that it creates a connection with fans that you can only do in a way like this. So, I mean, you told me you were there last year.
Yeah, I was.
Did that create a special relationship? You know, outside of us knowing each other, it's like, you know, you're like, wow, like I love this company. You bring all these things together. So I think it's a way that we can really show up in a way, and nobody else in the world could bring together all these sports properties, all these athletes, all this great content in one place.
Okay, let's talk about when you think it pays off in your valuation, because I think your valuation right now is $25 billion, you all have said. Back in 2022, it was $31 billion. You thought about going public at the time. You did not. Why'd you make that decision, and when?
Yeah, we never thought about going public.
Okay.
We never. That's just made up things that people put out there. We never spent one time, you know, with bankers going through a process or anything. We've wanted to build this as a great private company. So it's really time to be a public company. I think we will be a public company one day, but this year, you know, I mean, we're growing very quickly. Next year we'll be close to $12 billion in revenue. The company's, you know, making good profits today. We have all the capital that we need. So for me, there's no rush to be a public company. When the time's right, we'll do it, but there's absolutely no rush.
What would be the reason for being a public company? Needing cash for expansion?
Yeah, we've got, you know, close to $1 billion on the balance sheet in cash today. We've got, you know, we generate, you know, we'll generate a fair amount of cash this year. The businesses are all doing very nicely. I think the reason to be a public company is eventually you'll want to give your employees and investors liquidity. Yeah. Our two big investors today, they like us being private. They like us building the business. But eventually, look, I think we'll be too big of a company to not be a public company. It's just a question of when is the right time, and it's not something we're thinking about in the near term, but I think it's something that does make sense long term.
Tin Cup. Tin Cup.
Another great sports film.
It's just blank.
Kevin Costner.
Golf. Golf, which is underrepresented.
But it's actually not underrepresented this year because we're doing the Fanatics Games. Do you know about the Fanatics Games?
Is this the one with Dick's Sports Goods, or is this a different?
So basically what we want to do is take 50 athletes, celebrities, artists, 50 average Joe fans, and have them compete against each other for $1 million cash prize.
You could be the average Joe.
Yeah.
By the way, he's not making it.
No, I'm below average.
It's $1 million cash prize. Carry the money out of Javits Center Sunday afternoon. $500,000 Ferrari is the second prize. A $250,000 LeBron James rookie card. And there's 8 athletic competitions. One is golf. There's a basketball competition, a football competition, baseball competition, WWE, UFC, FIFA competition. You take your 6 best scores. You drop your worst 2, and the winner leaves with one of these prizes. But it's pretty. The people have been talking.
You don't have to catch a football, do you?
Well,
I don't think TV anchors can't catch.
We've seen there's something going on at CNBC where some of the guys who may not be here today, a guy maybe named Andrew Sorkin, very uncoordinated. I just saw the video again of him. Tom Brady gave him 3 of the most gentle, beautiful passes in the world, and I think if Becky were asleep and blindfolded, she would have caught the passes, and Andrew could not catch them. So I'm confident you could catch that. I'm looking for Andrew to come back this year, redeem himself, catch the passes. I never felt like I was more coordinated than somebody. In this particular case, I think I felt good about my
You felt like one of Joe Burrow's receivers. Take your pick.
And by the way, Joe Burrow's going to be there this year.
I heard that. I love that guy.
Yeah,
don't hurt him or anything. Don't let him do anything.
Chase is going to be there. That's your team.
That LSU reunion, that's
well, we got a lot of LSU guys. We got Jaden Daniels coming this year, so a lot of LSU people in the house. So it's going to be great. But Fanatics Fest, there's really nothing like this in yours.
We didn't talk about Tops. I mean, there's a reason you're wearing that, I think, too.
Yeah, I mean, Tops is, our collectibles business is doing amazing. I mean, we started it just came up with the idea in the day before Thanksgiving in 2020, and now next year will be over $3 billion in revenue. Close to
what was seen as a dying brand before you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was really about, the reality is, in 2021, trading cards had really benefited from COVID.
Right.
And we looked.
Has that lasted?
It would not have lasted had it not been for us. We went there and said, look, we think this is a big opportunity, but you need to innovate the product. You need to market. There had really been no marketing of collectibles. So we got the athletes really involved. we went out and really started to market the hobby. There were so many problems with the collector experience that we really began fixing. And then I think we created an ecosystem that really got, all of our partners involved with it. So it's been amazing to see how much growth there's been over the last couple of years. I think when we started this, no one would have said, hey, this is going to be a $3 billion plus business for Fanatics in 2026. And that's just been focused on the collector, focus on innovating the product. I'll give you an example. The debut patch we created in baseball that's now going to all sports, that's now the most valuable card. That's the card that every person wants. When you play your first game, we put a patch on your jersey, and then we take it off, and we put it into a one-on-one card. So many incredible innovations like that we're doing.
Michael, want to thank you. Appreciate you coming by, and we will see you next weekend.
Yeah, you're going to catch the football, right?
I will try.
Okay.
I will try.
And we're bringing Andrew back. We got to get him back. He's got to come back and redeem himself.
Uh-oh.
Call that.
Thank you, Michael. When we come...
At Avocado Green Mattress, we know that we all deserve a little rest. That's why we're promoting better sleep this season with our certified organic mattresses and bedding, all made with natural, luxurious materials for a healthier planet and a healthier you. Start your sleep trial today at avocadogreenmattress.com.
Dog made a bad? Uh-oh. There's a good way to handle it. Poof! Odor on the pet? Ooh. There's a poof for that, too! Housebound pet?
I'm home.
Come home to no mess and happiness! Because there's a poof for that! Stinky washables? Ugh. There's even a poof for that! Yeah. See? There's a poof for every problem! Get poof at Walmart. If it's not poof, it stinks!
I like things personalized, like my coffee. So when my doctor prescribed Vyvgart Hytrulo self-injection for my generalized myasthenia gravis, we personalized my treatment goals.
Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness.
It's my treatment, my way.
Vyvgart Hytrulo for weekend away Steve.
It's travel ready and can go where I go.
Self-injection fits my plans.
Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you're allergic to its ingredients. It may increase infection risk and cause serious allergic or infusion or injection-related reactions. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, fever, recent or planned vaccinations, allergy history, or kidney problems. Most common side effects include respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions.
My Vyvgart Hytrulo self-injection.
Reducing my symptoms.
That's treatment my way.
Ask your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
When we started feeding Buggy, the farmer's dog, he lost so much weight. Pre-portioned packs makes it really easy to keep him lean and healthy.
In the morning, he flies up the stairs and hops up on my bed. In the past, he would not have been able to do any of those things.
All right, welcome back, everybody. The Senate continues to work on changes to the House-passed reconciliation bill with their looming July 4th deadline. Joining us right now with the latest is Senator Shelley Moore Capito. She is the Republican Policy Committee chair. And Senator, thank you for being with us. Let's talk a little bit about where things stand, because we've heard from many of your colleagues who have had issues with this bill as it stands and want to change things. What's the latest?
Well, we always knew when the House passed their bill that the Senate would work its will, and we have different ideas in different areas, whether it would be some of the energy tax credits, some of the other Medicaid, for instance. And so that's what we're doing. We're working it through with our members. We've had very productive meetings. We know how important it is to the American people that their taxes don't go up and that we shore up the border and our national security and our energy. So we are on track here, and I think we are probably make some changes, but I don't think they'll be radical changes, and I think that I feel very good about where we are at this point.
We heard earlier today from former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. He was on set with us and said, look, you basically have to send it back, and all the senators who are saying they will not vote for it in the end will vote. Is that your feeling as well? With the exception of Rand Paul,
I think, you know, I think at the end of the day, we're going to be successful. And part of that is because of the leadership. John Thune, he's listening to everybody. Mike Crapo has been very studied over on finance to make sure that everybody's input, and he has stacks of ideas from different senators. But at the end of the day, we all know that this bill is important for the economy, for the prosperity of many, many people around the country. And so that's going to be the driving force for all of us. So in the end, yes, I think we get votes enough to pass the bill.
The issues, you said that there are some changes you'd like to make. Can you be specific with that? And I'll ask your West Virginia counterpart, Senator Jim Justice, is warning that putting SNAP costs onto state capitals could cost Republicans control of Congress.
Well, I think you have to look at the benefit programs to make sure that those that are due benefits, those that need the benefits, get the benefits. And certainly in my state, that's exceedingly important, whether that's a SNAP benefit or whether that's the benefit of Medicaid. But what's happened here, there are people on those benefits, both programs, that don't deserve to be on there or don't qualify and have stayed on for years and years for one reason or another. We need to flush that out, get rid of the waste, the fraud, the abuse of the system, so that it is there for the basic folks who need it. And I think Senator Justice knows that well as a former governor, but I think also he knows that the states are on tight budgets, but the states are going to figure this out as well. We are by no means going to be foisting the whole SNAP program onto a state. That we know that possibly can't occur, and that the SNAP benefit is exceedingly important to many families. So I think we're going to find a happy medium there, and I feel satisfied for the direction we're going with Senator Bozeman leading the charge from the Agriculture Committee.
On the Medicaid front, where do you come down on that?
Yes.
There are millions of people who are now on those rolls because of the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare Act. How would you like to see that changed specifically, and what happens to the people who do lose their health care benefits?
Well, I think, you know, in a state like mine, where 28% of the population is on Medicaid, we do have the expanded Medicaid, which you're talking about. That was the expansion that occurred under the Affordable Care Act. And so what we're looking at is to try to, again, preserve the benefit for those who deserve it and qualify for it. There are people on there that either are qualified in 4 different states, so that's a fraudulent or a waste. There are people on there that may be illegal, that are here illegally, that are on there. So that, I think, is those folks will lose the benefit. I think we'll put a work requirement in. We will also ask those beneficiaries to make sure that they're current, and instead of being current once a year, maybe they have to attest to their eligibility twice a year. I mean, these are not onerous requirements that I think will lead to bending the curve in Medicaid. It's the fastest growing part of our healthcare system, and it needs to be reined in terms so that it can be there for the people who really need it and deserve to have it.
Yeah, that's a good point. No one ever thinks about that. It's just grandma going off a cliff, you know, with, you know, starving babies along with it. That's all you hear. And the thing about it, if you don't fix it, no one's going to have it.
That's correct, and I think that's where we need to keep our focus. And so I think, as I said, I don't think the requirements that we're putting on are onerous. Yes, some people will lose the benefit, but they didn't deserve it in the beginning. And I think that's a fairness quotient in my opinion.
Senator Capito, thank you for joining us today.
Sure. Thanks for having me on.
What time is it?
It's actually, glad you asked, just after 8 a.m. on the East Coast, 8:02 actually, and you're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernan. Andrew is off today. Futures this morning are under pressure. You'll see at this point the Dow futures are off by about 273 points. NASDAQ down by 131 points. The S&P futures off by 33. A huge part of the pressure on the Dow coming from Boeing shares. That breaking news this morning that an Air India plane has crashed in the western city of Ahmedabad. That plane was a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. It was powered by GE engines, and Phil LeBeau joins us right now with the latest. Phil?
And Becky, at this point, the main focus for those who are at the crash scene in India, seeing if there are any survivors at all. There have been reports that there are obviously many fatalities. Whether or not anybody was able to survive this crash, we don't know at this point. In terms of the investigation into the accident, that's going to take some time. The first priority is looking for survivors, and then after that, those victims who were killed in the crash, removing those bodies. Then investigators will be able to say, okay, let's look at the aircraft. Let's get the cockpit voice recorder. Let's get the data recorder. Let's see what went wrong with this flight. Very unusual for a plane to lose power like this a minute or two after taking off. There's no indication at this point what may have caused that, but that's going to be the primary focus for the investigators. Why did it lose power? Was there something structurally that went wrong? Was there something with the engines that caused the plane to fall so quickly? Those are going to be the two primary questions there. I have reached out to veteran crash investigators and have said, look, based on what you're seeing so far, is there anything unusual here? And all of the ones that I have talked with so far have said the same thing. Nope, too early, not enough based on just what we know and what limited video is out there to even speculate as to a possible cause for this crash. But for Boeing, this is going to add new scrutiny in terms of quality and the manufacturing process for the 787 Dreamliner. There have been more than a few critics who have said, look, this is an aircraft that is not properly put together. A former Boeing engineer has said that. Boeing has refuted all of those accusations in the past, and the Dreamliner has a very safe track record. This is the first crash involving a Dreamliner in terms of the engines. These are GEnx-1B engines. Those are one of the primary engines for the Dreamliner. It also has a very strong track record. So both of those come into this incident with good track records. Now we'll find out if there was something that went wrong, either mechanically, within the software, etc. That's going to be the focus for investigators.
And Phil, that could take days, I would assume, at least, before they really have any clear indications of what happened. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, Becky, it may take weeks or months. I mean, there have been accidents where, they have a general idea, but they don't have the root cause. Investigators don't for a long time. And you'll see while India, because it was a crash in their home country, they will lead the investigation. But no doubt, the NTSB and the FAA will have teams. If they're not already on their way to India, they will be shortly.
Phil, that looks like a fairly densely populated. I mean, it looks densely populated. Just to
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we're talking about here in terms of people on the ground, Phil.
Right. And that's why it's going to take some time. I know everybody wants the answers right away in terms of what caused this. Get the data recorder, get the cockpit voice recorder. The primary focus right now in India, are there survivors? And if there are not survivors, once that's determined, then getting the victims' bodies from the wreckage. And as you mentioned, Joe, it's a populated area, so this could take a little bit of time.
Phil, thank you. Very sad morning. We appreciate your help with this morning.
You bet.
Coming up, a former National Economic Council director in President Trump's first administration, now Vice Chairman of IBM, Gary Cohn, is going to join us. His thoughts on the president's big, beautiful bill, tariffs, implications for the Fed, much more than later. Tech investor Dan Niles is going to join us. We're coming right back.
Yikes.
I'm thinking about adding to my fleet.
Tough decision.
Almost as tough as this lie. What do you think?
Safety scores are good. Policies are updated. I said go for it.
I was talking about my shot. But that's good advice.
Can I give you another piece of advice?
What's that? Wow.
Sentry, right by you.
That is good advice.
Thank you.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses, I didn't know how to turn all this fancy prettiness into a classy-looking logo. But GoDaddy Aero does, with its magical AI powers. It not only creates it, it slaps that sweet thing everywhere.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Dog made a bad? Uh-oh. There's a good way to handle it. Poof! Odor on the pet? There's a poof for that, too! Housebound pets?
I'm home.
Come home to no mess and happiness! Because there's a poof for that! Stinky washables? There's even a poof for that! See? There's a poof for every problem! Get poof on Amazon! If it's not poof, it stinks!
Toothless, let's take her down gently.
How to Train Your Dragon is the cinematic ride of the summer. This is how you reimagine a classic.
Thank you for nothing, you useless reptile!
How to Train Your Dragon. Rated PG.
This is Buddy. I've never met a dog like him because there's never been a dog like him. Every dog is unique. That's why at the Farmer's Dog, we put your dog at the center of everything we do. With food that's freshly made, to human-grade safety standards, in personalized portions. It's packed with all the nutrients dogs need and delivered right to you. We just want to make it easier to take care of everybody's buddy.
Joining us now for a look at the economy, trade, the budget bill, and much more. IBM Vice Chairman Gary Cohn. He was in the White House, the first Trump administration, as NEC director. Long career at one of the preeminent firms, obviously, on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs. So you know what you're talking about in terms of things. And you're not part of the administration anymore. So I think you won't feel like you have to say great things. But I mean, why does this keep happening every single time it happens? Why are things defying the worst case scenario? Why is the market now, and the S&P's in a bull market again, so is the NASDAQ. Why are these things happening when so many negative things have been pointed out by so many people?
Look, Joe, the actual economy continues to perform very well. I mean, that's what you're pointing out here. The perceived economy and the polling data keeps coming in horribly. So we've got this huge divergence between what people think may happen, what is actually happening. And I think people's anticipation is like things are going to get worse, but they haven't gotten worse. We continue to see inflation data sort of at or around the Fed's target of 2%. We continue to see the job market be strong, not overly strong and not overheated, but strong enough to continue employment growth. So when you look at the underlying economic data, we're relatively sound right now. Everyone keeps worrying about the tariffs and tariffs feeding through the system and the inflation that's going to cause and the disruption it's going to cause. And look, I'm not saying we won't see that. We still may see that. We've only been in this, tariff dislocation, tariff conversation for a few months now. It takes a long time for these things to feed through the economy. We had inventory. A lot of people brought in a lot of inventory before Liberation Day. Those goods are priced at old prices. As we work off the old inventory, we bring in new inventory. I think we're going to start seeing some price increases, but it's going to take its time working its way through the economy. So look, we're early in this game, and we may never get to a place where we have this inflation.
We've definitely gotten past a couple of data points where people said, okay, you're going to see it here, and it wasn't there. I'm really afraid to stick my neck out and say, We're not going to see it. I believe what all the doomsayers, I believe them. It's coming.
Which is why he'd like you to say it.
Which is why I'd like, no. But then at the same time, I look at the discounting mechanism of the stock market, and I'm not absolutely convinced that the most dire forecasts are ever actually going to come to pass.
But I think the market's not convinced that the highest levels of tariffs are ever going to pass.
A lot of times, most dire things don't happen.
Usually.
Markets tend
The world can only end once.
Yeah, markets tend to overreact. We tend to overreact in everything. Whether it's perceived data, whether it's reality, we tend to overreact. Markets tend to normalize relatively quickly. But look, there's some things we do know. So if you look at freight shipments coming into the port of LA Long Beach, which is the major import destination for things coming out of Asia, we know that freight shipping is down about 50% year over year. So we are getting 50% less goods than we were a year ago. It doesn't feel to me that the U.S. consumer is consuming 50% less today than they were a year ago. So as we work through the inventory buildup that I perceive was there, that new pricing has to feed into the system. I think a lot of people felt like that was going to feed into the system now. It was going to have fed in the system by June. Maybe it's July, maybe it's August. I'm not smart enough to know, but it feels to me like it's a July.
And on the other side, we should have seen some of the uncertainty and the paralysis of consumers and CEOs. We should have seen some of that manifested too.
I think you are seeing some of the. Okay. I think you're seeing some of the. I won't call it paralysis of CEOs.
Hesitancy.
I think you're seeing hesitancy. That's a much better word. I think you're seeing some conservativeness. You know, CEOs in the CapEx space are taking their time. Right now, I don't think the CEO community feels like they're getting rewarded for leaning into big CapEx opportunities. They don't feel like they're being rewarded for making big, bold investments. You know, then I say that, then you see what's going on in the power space, in the energy space, in the small nuclear reactor space. We're seeing deals all the time because this whole AI boom and what's going on in AI. So in selective areas where people feel like there's an immediate need, we are seeing CapEx. In traditional business investment, where the business community says, look, I need to make this investment, but if I make it today, or I make it 6 months from now, or I make it a year from now, it's not going to matter as much. And if I make it too early and the economy turns down, it's really bad for my shareholders. If I don't make it and the economy stays steady, it's okay. I'll have time to make it towards the end of the year, the beginning of next year. And I do think you're seeing that feed through the economy.
Is it time for you to sign up full bore with the bond vigilantes at this point? Are you concerned? I mean, I really think it was like 20 basis points. And people said, oh my God, Trump's folding because the bond market is paid.
Well, he himself said the bond market.
I know, but 460 is not. And then we also have seen the dollar has been declining. Is our preeminence around the globe, has our brand been damaged by any of this? Are we exceptional anymore?
I think we're seeing a natural move in markets. Remember, markets never go one direction forever. And if you think they are going to go one direction forever, then you know you're in trouble. So this view that the world was going to own dollars and was going to invest in U.S. fixed income, and there was this great carry trade, we lived off that trade for a long time in America. You know, the dominance of the dollar was really helpful to us. We're now to a point where the world is now reevaluating the dominance of the dollar. And B, they may not have the extra currency to ship out to the United States to buy dollars. So if you're looking at Europe, for instance, right now, a country that has historically underinvested in its own infrastructure, underinvested in its own national defense, with what's going on right now, they're being told, you know what, you're going to actually have to spend money to defend your country.
Great food, though. I mean,
well, it is. Yeah. But you're talking about the dollar here. They don't have the extra capacity to buy dollars and invest in the United States. The extra currency flows that they have are now being recirculated into their own economy to provide the defense mechanism they need for themselves. Well, these things are on the margin. You know, you point out, even though there's vigilantes out there, we're talking about relatively small moves in the big picture, but these relatively small moves happen because of the marginal investor, the marginal dollar. Right. You know, the price of the Treasury auction is based on the marginal bid, not the core bid. The price of the dollar is based on the marginal buyer today, not the core buyer of the dollar. So when the marginal buyer changes slightly, we get price moves. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a new readjustment.
The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, is trying to find new marginal buyers. That's why they're talking about the SLR relaxations on what banks can do with their capital. Will that work? Will the banks actually buy Treasuries?
Look, I think to the extent that we get new relaxations on capital, banks will look at the opportunities to put their capital to work. You know, there's a move on with the Department of Labor right now to free up 401k retirement plans to go into the alternatives market. You know, if we get more capital coming into the alternatives market, which I think makes an enormous amount of sense, that long-term investors investing for the retirement should have access to better product and more product. These all have inputs because all of these markets do price on the marginal buyer, the marginal dollar. The marginal dollar in, the marginal dollar out really drive the price. You know, that's the most unique thing about our market system here in the United States. It's an open, transparent market, and in open, transparent markets, the marginal dollar, the marginal player really dictates price.
At the beginning, you talked about how businesses and consumers are worried about inflation expectations. The Fed watches that very closely, too. Do you think that's because of what they're hearing when they look at the news? Do you think that's because of what they've lived through the last 5 years since COVID?
I think it's a combination of both. You know, if you look at the current Fed chair, you know, he lived through quote unquote transitory inflation that proved not to be transitory, where the Fed did have to play catch up and they did have to raise rates quite dramatically to get things back under control coming out of COVID. So they've got that real-time experience in hand, and they still haven't totally recovered reputationally from that. They're hearing in the news, and they're hearing from the corporate community that the cost of inputs is going up, or the scarcity is starting to show. And we know supply-demand drives price. We know that less materials come in the United States. So I think the Fed is worried about the potential that prices go up and things get more expensive, and therefore we end up in an inflationary cycle. The Fed right now is in a pretty, I would say, opportune, lucky, good scenario. Like I said, inflation is right at their target, just slightly above their target. So they can say, look, we're living at our 2% target. Employment's sort of right at their target. They do admit we're in a restrictive environment right now, but the restrictive environment doesn't seem to be having a negative consequence on the economy. So the market is giving the Fed the opportunity to wait. Yes, look, I understand that we all would probably like lower interest rates. I mean, given our choices, we all would like to pay less for money. Interest rates is a cost of money. But right now, the Fed is saying, you know, it's our job to moderate the price of money. And right now, we see no reason to lower the price of money based on the data inputs we're looking at.
Gary, we have been told that some of the angst in the bond market, and we've been told repeatedly, it has to do with the perception of the markets to the big, beautiful bill. So somehow the $3 trillion that the CBO estimates that we add to the deficit is a lot worse than that $3 trillion we just added during the Biden administration. It's qualitatively different than that $3 trillion. So I don't believe that. But I also don't think that the deficit you were running in the Trump administration, or the Trump administration, we were at $700 billion. We're at $2 trillion post-pandemic for no reason to be at $2 trillion. And we're going to be there again with the big, beautiful bill, probably. So there is something wrong with it's not all Trump's fault, obviously. Yeah. And if the Green New Deal passed, I mean, we'd be at 8% probably.
Joe, I think we need to separate two things. I think there's two things we really have to separate. You know, when we're talking about the deficit here, people argue about the $2.4 trillion over 10 years to extend the existing tax cut plan that was put in place in 2017.
Yes, they do.
Okay, that $2.4 trillion is a static scoring number. It doesn't relate to the economic impact of rolling or not rolling. What we don't talk about is we don't talk about the economic impact of not rolling over the Trump tax cuts. If we said these Trump tax cuts are going to expire December 31st of this year, what would be the scoring impact of that? It would be a lot more dramatic than the $2.4 trillion. People have estimated being the $4 to $5 trillion of negative impact of raising taxes on hardworking American citizens. Right. So that's one part of the equation that we can talk about. We can talk about that 2.4 and what it does, and does it drive economic growth, and does it pay for itself over time? The other side of the equation, which I agree with you on, is this spending side of the equation, which is not the tax revenue side of the equation. We have a spending problem. You know, in COVID, the U.S. government did exactly what they're supposed to do. They helped the U.S. economy stay stable. They made sure we as citizens could continue to live our life. When the economy shut down during COVID, you know, people needed to put food on the table. They needed to pay their rent. They needed to heat their homes. They needed to make payments. The U.S. government stepped in and did exactly what they are there to do. The problem is, when we came out of COVID, they looked at the baseline spending that we were at and they said, oh, this is an interesting number. Let's keep working from here. Let's not go back and look at where we were pre-COVID and say, okay, that should really be our baseline. This was an extraordinary one-off period of time. We did our job. We did our job successfully. We came out the other side. The economy is strong. The economy is growing. Now we have to slash spending back down to where we were pre-COVID. I think we have to separate these things to actually get to the right answer.
But suddenly the narrative is if you take anything away from current spending, that it's going to hurt people that we don't want to hurt. And we hear it every single day.
Like,
I mean, how were they really hurting that much?
There is a reality when you're an elected official and you run for office every 2 years, it is very difficult to go back to your constituents and say, hey, I went to Washington, did a great job. I took something away from you.
Right.
There's a fundamental problem there. That said, the bigger picture is your job is to create a long-term stable economy for your citizens. And I think we sometimes conflate this issue of what Washington's supposed to do, creating a long-term stable economy, with the short-term election phenomena of what is my opponent going to run against me.
Why the Senate's supposed to be the more stable body.
It is.
The Senate is being asked not to put any input into this because they won't be able to then get it through the House again. Such a narrow majority.
Look, my view is I think the Senate will put some input into it. They will get to a compromise. Like I feel very strongly that the tax issue and most of what's in the one big beautiful bill will get passed. And I think it should be passed. I mean, raising taxes back up does not make sense. Border security is something that people rely upon.
All the additional tax cuts make sense, Steve?
I think there are pieces in there that will have a lot of discussion. You know, when you take and look at the state and local tax deduction, obviously very important to many members of the House, especially those that sit in high tax jurisdictions. Most of the Republican senators don't really care as much about the state and local tax deduction. I think that's going to be an item.
Additional tax cuts for no taxes on tips, no taxes on.
She had a bad experience on waiter somewhere. This tip thing
I think this is just a giveaway. This is just a giveaway to say that this form of income should be taxed and this shouldn't. Honestly, it's the Richmond's equivalent of this is the capital. The thing, Andrew.
Carried interest?
Carried interest.
Carried interest. Come on, we got to talk about carried interest. Yeah.
It's the same thing as carried interest, where if you earn money this way, it shouldn't be taxed.
Yeah. Now, to be honest with you, if you look at the no tax on tips legislation, it's going to have very, very little impact because all of a sudden you're going to need to declare your tips. Right. You're going to need to declare enough income and tips to get free tips.
And that was 100-0. And
right. So any money we get declared in tips that people aren't declaring today is actually a windfall for the government, and it will collect Social Security, will collect Medicare, will collect the Obama tax. So there's some give and take in there. It's a short-term program. Yeah. The amount of money that it raises in scoring is a tiny amount of money. Right. The federal government is not assuming they're collecting a lot of money.
We got to go.
No tax on
I want to talk to you about tariffs. We don't have time, but I want to talk to you when we go to break about tariffs.
All right. I'll come back and we'll talk about tariffs.
I always ask you.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
When you're actively trading, the fees really start to add up. Public is the only platform that offers rebates on your option trades, which help offset those costs. It's a simple way to help me keep more of what I earn.
Whether Dad's vehicle is his prized possession or the family hauler, he needs to protect it. This Father's Day, give him the gift of WeatherTech. From laser-measured floor liners and cargo liner to keep his interior pristine. It's a seat protector to guard against stains, and sunshade to block harmful UV rays. The Cup phone perfectly secures his phone while driving. Order these American-made products or a gift card at WT.com. Happy Father's Day.
It is amazing. They used to have a collagen, used to have a probiotic, a green juice that replaced it all with this Arma colostrum. If you don't know what colostrum is, it is amazing, but it is a bioactive whole food. It has all the essential nutrients you need for your skin, your gut, energy, focus, mood, performance, your hair, like immune system. It strengthens, supports all of that. I think the first thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had after workout, but if you want to try it, we'll try armor.com.
Do you want a higher standard of care for your cats? Get safe, fragrance-free odor cleaning with Poof. Poof Kitty Spray cleans away odors on perches, toys, and towers. Poof Pure Wipes get the stink off fast. Odor, dirt, dander, just wipe it away and ditch the stink. And Poof Litterizer puts an end to litter box stink. Smell less and save more with Poof Kitty products. Get Poof at Amazon.com today.
She's cleaning the shower. They're cleaning the shower. Doesn't look like it, right? Wet and Forget Shower does all the work for you. Wet and Forget is the once-a-week shower cleaner that lets you go live life. Rinsing? Forget it. Scrubbing? Forget it. There's a reason Wet and Forget Shower has over 40,000 five-star reviews. Wet and Forget Shower is a bleach-free, quick and easy once-a-week spray that goes to work on contact, giving you back what matters most, your free time. Don't forget to get yours at Target, Walmart, and Lowe's.
Kelly Evans, Brian Sullivan, Power Lunch, weekdays 2 Eastern, CNBC.
The club is really about empowerment, empowering you to manage your own money.
One of the key benefits for me is knowing where Jim is going to buy or sell before he does it.
He teaches how to invest versus just what trades to make.
What I like about Jim is he makes it easy for someone like me to understand how to invest my money properly.
Booyah, Jim!
Get invested. Join the club today. Go to cnbc.com/join Jim.
We've got the May Producer Price Index, also jobless claims. Markets are under pressure. Ahead of that, Rick Santelli is standing by at the CME. Rick, take it away.
Yes, Becky, these are wholesale inflation numbers in the form of the Producer Price Index for the month of May, up 0.1% on headline. That is very much 1/10 less than expectations. But do remember, in the rearview mirror, we had the trifecta of negative numbers. We had minus 0.5% last month. That was a very big number, the worst since COVID, or I should say the biggest drop. It isn't necessarily bad to see inflation going away. If you strip out the all-important food and energy, it remains up 1/10. As I said before, these are much cooler numbers. We're expecting up 0.3. Now, this follows a big down number, as I said, down 0.4 on ex-food and energy. That was the biggest going back to February of 15. It equaled down 0.4. We've never had a bigger number, but then again, this series was modified. It only goes back to 2010. Let's take out food, energy, and trade. Once again, it's up 1/10, and once again, that's a couple tenths lighter than expectations. Last month's minus 1/10 was indeed one of those big numbers. The only other negative number we had was COVID-related, down 0.4. Now, if we look at the year-over-year numbers, and these are important, this is where the stickiness comes in. Year-over-year headline, up 2.6. As expected, but 0.2 warmer than the rearview mirror. 2.4 was in the rearview mirror. 3.4 was March. That's what we're comping to. Take out food and energy, 3%, 1/10 less than expectations, 1/10 less than last month, which was 3.1. Where does it comp to? Comps to August of last year when we were at 2.8. So in a way, been there, done that. That's the stickiness I talked about. And finally, if we look at ex-food, energy, and trade, that's 2.7. 0.3 less than we were expecting, and some progress here. 2.9 was our last look. 2.7 would equal Jan of 24. To find a lower number, you're back to Thanksgiving of 23. Now, let's look at initial and continuing claims. 248,000 on initial claims. As we inch ever closer to 250,000, that follows a slightly revised 247, which becomes 248, unchanged on the week. And to put a face on this, you have to go back to October of last year to find a higher number, and we all know what that was. October of last year, you're talking about 250,000. We finally traded above that, and on continuing claims, 1,956,000, getting ever closer to 2 million. Now, this remains the third consecutive week above 1.9 million, and these are the highest numbers since November of 21. Interest rates really aren't changed much, but they were already well down due to some of the weakness we're seeing in equities that may have to do with that crash, that unfortunate crash. And the pre-opening equities, well, they're in the red, and they have been in the red. A very subtle amount of improvement on this data. Becky, Joe, back to you.
Okay, Rick, thank you. Let's bring in Steve Leisman. He joins us with more on this. And by the way, at your suggestion, Steve, we asked Gary Cohn to stick around, too. He was on his way out the door, but we've got him here. We wanted to see what he thinks about these numbers, too. He's been taking notes with his pen and paper. We'll get your thoughts on this and have Gary jump in and say what he thinks, too.
Well, he said he would come back. He just didn't say he'd come back a minute later.
After the break.
I'm obviously very gratified Gary's sticking around because there's so many things to talk to him about, especially, by the way, what's happening with the dollar this morning. But before, look, it looks like there's a lot of goose eggs on this producer price report. I can't find an obvious reason, like unlike past months, why this number is down. Becky, there's a lot of stuff happening in the economy right now relative to these tariffs. We had a couple pops in a couple areas yesterday, but I'll just repeat what I thought was the broader story, which was, remember, the Fed's big concern was that not just the tariff prices would go up, but that inflation expectations would rise and prices would rise for non-tariff goods. That did not appear to be the case. I will say that many economists this morning kind of agree with this notion that Gary laid out in the prior half hour, was that you would get some of the impact in months to come. But the question becomes, do you have other prices falling because tariff goods are rising? And then the broader question, which I think I ended the discussion with and remains the case and the question this morning, as to whether or not you have companies taking hits in their profit margins for a couple reasons. One is that if you think these things are temporary, you may not want to raise prices right away. Some people feel like it takes retailers, and Becky, you'll know more about this than I do, 2 or 3 months eventually to raise prices. So we may not be seeing the full effect. And then I would just throw out the Joe Kernan postulate, which is maybe this is all a lot of bluff and bluster over nothing, and that you're raising prices on some percentage of tariff goods and the broad and dynamic U.S. economy. It's like, what do you want to say? Shooting an arrow at Godzilla. It's just a little pest, but not a really big deal. Becky?
Gary, what do you think about that after Steve's technical analysis of a lot of stuff happening in the economy?
Well, with the disclosure, I have no numbers in front of me. And I'm listening to what has been said here. I think what Steve is saying, I agree with. Initially, companies have been hesitant and have been pressured not to raise prices. Right. We've seen that. We've heard about it.
Nobody wants to be the first one to
So no one wants to be the first one. No one wants to be the second one. No one wants to raise prices. So number one, we know there's pressure not to raise prices. Number two, we know there was stockpiling. We know if you look at the freight numbers and you look at the ships and containers that came into the Port of LA and Long Beach prior to Liberation Day and post-Liberation Day, we know the volumes are dramatically different. So there's a huge amount of stockpiling that needs to be worn off. So the newer goods that are coming with the higher tariffs are just starting to work their way into the system. Number three, we know that the energy component has been very favorable. The price of energy has gone down. The administration has directly affected energy
Starting
input
to
costs.
rise again, though.
Starting to rise. Well, in the last couple of days, there's been a little bit of anxiety in the Middle East. Right. So we're starting to rise. But overall, when you look at this time series, the energy input has been very beneficial. And energy feeds through the system in every component. When we talk about inflation, we talk about energy drives. When you talk to anyone at Walmart, they'll tell you the number one component of business is the price of gasoline. People drive out to the front of the Walmart, they fill up the tank, If they're expecting to spend $80, they spend $62.
Right.
They take the $18, they run right in the store and they spend it. So that energy component feeds right through. It feeds through manufacturing, feeds through delivery, feeds through transportation. We see it through the entire system. It is a very huge predictor of what's going on in these prices here. And so I think we're starting to see, the energy piece has come through the economy. You're right. We're now starting to see potentially prices go up. I think that we've seen the cheaper inventory wear off. I also think that we saw enormous amount of pre-buying from the U.S. consumer, especially in the big durable goods. And the number that's in there that's most concerning to me is you're starting to see the claims number.
Yeah.
So the claims number that wasn't in there, we've got to start paying attention to the fact that the job market clearly feels like it is slowing down.
I want to, hey, Rick, you haven't spoken. That must have been music to your ears, what Gary said about the most important thing for Rick all the time is, in terms of inflation, is energy prices, right, Rick?
Yeah, no, I've been talking about this for literally years and years since we started aiming in the EV subsidized energy lane of the highway, and I couldn't agree more. And really, what he's saying underscores something even bigger, Joe, is that there's a give and take aspect to many of the big issues with this administration. And the give and take, I mean, we talk about the take, we talk about the negative aspects, but whether it's regulatory issues
Order filled.
Gary just pointed
Order
out,
submitted.
what's going on with energy is negative effects reversing and starting to see some of these energy filter through, as he pointed out. These are big positives, and I don't think the energy side is going to necessarily go away. And it also brings up a bigger issue with the big, beautiful bill
Order filled.
Subsidizing energy. I know that there's a lot of talk about taking them away, maybe pulling that sooner rather than later, and I think that's a really good idea. If you're looking to get away from these $2 trillion budget years, that would be a wonderful place to start, especially considering the baseline spending issues that we've been debating post-COVID.
Hey, Steve, there's a big jump in the market betting just in terms of 2 rate cuts for this year. I think we have a full screen we can pull up for that, too.
Yeah, I was just actually calculating that. We have one from just a few minutes after, thanks to my producer, Betsy. Yeah, so just by way of context, Betsy, we were at 57, 58% on both those cuts before the CPI number yesterday. They went up into the 60s after the CPI. And now, again, people think the Fed can indeed cut rates. Again, we got to get through the summer here. We got to get through July. Make sure that these inflation numbers do not rise as a result. But this is a big number. I think it's wrong to not talk about the dollar this morning, which is a big number. Again, we're back where we were before in terms of, I think, the president out there threatening tariffs with his tweet last night. And whether or not this is a moment to fade the threat, buy the threat, sell the threat, I don't know. Let me throw it to Joe. He's smarter about this stuff.
Could be. We talk about good rate cuts and bad rate cuts. Good rate cuts are when inflation's low. Bad rate cuts are when the economy's slowing. Maybe there's a good drop in the dollar when it's because inflation is low. Maybe it's a bad drop in the dollar when, I don't know, Rick is a dollar expert too. Is this gotten to the point, Rick, where long-term you've got doubts about, I mean, every Treasury Secretary that's ever been in office, if he ever said we don't care about the dollar or we don't want a strong dollar, he'd probably be out. So no one would really ever say it, but it certainly helps in terms of trade.
Yeah, see, the strong dollar, I've always liked the strong dollar because it gives the American consumer greater purchasing power in a consumption economy. What could be wrong with that? But there's a couple of moving parts here real quickly. Yes, we're hovering at the lowest levels should the dollar close here since March of 22. I get that, over 3 years. However, if you kind of think about all the distortions that happened after March, April of 2020 and COVID, and I know that those are a lot of years there, but if you extract those, Joe, and you look at the dollar index from about 04, 05 to 2019, 2020 when COVID started, being above 100 was an oddity, okay? It really isn't kind of where the dollar was comfortable. So in essence, I think on a very macro level, we're fixing something. The dollar got too strong during the COVID years. I do not see anything negative with respect to challenging the reserve currency status of the dollar. That would be my opinion. I continue to say that there are issues that this administration is making some foreign entities maybe not like us as much, but not liking us as much is a whole different scenario than the trust that's in the dollar globally.
Good for IBM?
Yes, it is. You know, remember the flip side of this is IBM is a American-based manufacturing company that sells a lot of products overseas and repatriates earnings.
Yeah.
So, you know, think of U.S. domiciled multinational corporations that sell product overseas and report dollar-based earnings.
We bring that up because Gary's vice chairman of the board at IBM.
Yep.
Too.
And ironically, I was at a Goldman 60th anniversary management committee dinner last night, and there were 3 Treasury secretaries in the room, all of which would support a strong dollar.
Amazing. That's right. Yeah.
Who were they? It was
Rubin,
Paulson.
Paulson, Mnuchin.
Mnuchin. Wow.
Oh, that's right, Mnuchin. I forgot. I thought he was a movie producer.
Yep.
That's the Goldman.
Gary, thank you so much for coming back and staying with us.
How much did you like this a lot? I mean,
this is great. Maybe it's a new career.
That's what I meant.
Andrew, stay on vacation. See?
No comment.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate our panel. And Gary, thanks. Come back soon.
Thank you.
All right. Tech investor Dan Niles, still to come.
You're seeing Skechers' famous glide step footwear everywhere. And now that famous design is available in hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Get the comfort and style of glide step now with the convenience of slip-ins with no bending down or touching your shoes. Try glide step Skechers slip-ins.
Decking and railing that stands up to whatever you ask and bends to your every whim. Trex, performance engineered for your life outdoors.
Wow, looks like your hiring's making a lot of people happy.
ZipRecruiter's new tool, Zip Intro, is a game changer. It saved me so many steps in the hiring process. Look, I just pick a time, and it handles everything, from finding great candidates to setting up interviews.
So, no more back and forth.
Right. I can just choose from this list and meet with them as soon as tomorrow. Oh, wow. Another dignified portrait of me.
Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Try it free. Only at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Every day, I'm checking the markets throughout the trading session, working the phones, talking to sources to share insights, information, and all of the details that you need to make money.
Closing bell overtime for Easter and streaming on CNBC.
Acosta, looking simply stunning. What's this? She's opening her Fidelity app to buy that stock with no fees or commissions. Because what does Gina got?
Gina's got the look.
That never gets old.
Talk about easier investing.
Order filled.
Order filled.
Hulu has live music. Get ready to Bonnaroo right from your living room as the biggest artists take the stage. Bonnaroo
Order
Music
submitted.
Festival. Streaming live to all Hulu subscribers. Presented by Ray-Ban Meta.
Order
Iconic
canceled.
Order filled.
Meta AI.
Order submitted.
Up next, that gentleman, tech investor Dan Niles, is going to join us. Squawk Box. We'll be right back.
It all started with a small business idea.
It's a pillow with a speaker in it. That's right, Craig.
Pulling in the perfect team to get the job done.
I'm just here for the internet. AT&T, it's super fast.
You locked us out?
And when we were thrown a curveball, we had everything we needed.
It's internet hour.
Don't worry, we have AT&T Internet backup. The next level network for small business.
I sold a pillow.
Doors bring us together. A dedicated Fidelity advisor can help you open those doors.
Can you sign this for me quickly?
She's so ready to take over.
With a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth for generations. Doors were meant to be opened.
I know how to make slick-looking goggles/glasses, but I have no idea how to make slick-looking social media stuff.
But GoDaddy Aero uses AI to create social content out of thin air, like this one.
Walton Goggins goggle glasses are great gifts for all guys and gals.
At AG1, one of our values is the continuous pursuit of excellence. For over 15 years, we have upgraded AG1, adding ingredients that the research said would support nutrient gaps and gut health. It's time for the next generation of AG1. AG1 Next Gen has launched with upgraded B vitamins and probiotic blends backed by multiple gold standard clinical trials. Our customers deserve the best, and the best just got much better.
Sail through the heart of historic cities and unforgettable scenery with Viking. Unpack once and get closer to iconic landmarks, local life, and cultural treasures. Because when you experience Europe on a Viking longship, you'll spend less time getting there and more time being there. Viking, exploring the world in comfort.
Never miss a moment.
One of the people who I've respected over the years, Joe Kiernan and Rick Santelli. This just came out, and we'll just play that for a second.
Personal income is up 8/10.
I think these stable coins are actually going to be the savior of dollar hegemony in the world, not a detractor from it.
We're going to address
Order filled.
At the same time as we are making the economy work again.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a look at what's going on in big tech right now. Joining us is
Order
Dan
submitted.
Niles. He's Niles Investment Management founder and portfolio manager. By the way, this is Dan's first time in New York since COVID. Really?
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was on set was January 27th of 2020. And I remember that was the day Apple reported. And I remember being on set and they were like, well, what are you thinking? I said, I think this COVID thing is going to be a big deal. And I'm not going to be, and then I think it was Carl Kinton, he asked me, what do you think of Disney? Because it had come down a little bit. And I said, I'm not interested in that until they shut down every single one of these.
Order filled.
And then I looked stupid for about 2 weeks.
Order filled.
And then I didn't look so stupid.
Wow.
So I remember that trip very well.
Any big proclamations this time around?
Yeah, I mean, the big one for me is really simple, which is you had U.S. GDP in Q1 come in, and the part that I don't think people paid enough attention to is U.S. GDP is 25% of global GDP. Mm-hmm. You had imports up 41% in Q1. Now, if that's not pulled forward in demand, I don't know what is. And that's the reason why Q1 results for all of these companies came in well. Because don't forget, in the fourth quarter when they reported Q4, 6 of the 7 Magnificent 7 companies had revenue estimates get cut for March. There's a reason things sounded so good when they then reported the March quarter. So you're going to get payback
submitted.
In the Thanksgiving through Christmas time period when people are expecting, you know, big sales of smartphones or PCs or cars, things that people bought in advance, because consumers aren't stupid. They go, well, gee, if I've got tariffs coming, maybe I should buy a few of these things
Order filled.
that are high-priced goods in advance. And so that's why you're seeing companies like Apple doing well in terms of the results they're reporting. I think they're going to have another good quarter. But when you're
Order
expecting
submitted.
30 to 35% of your revenues in just the month of November and December for most, consumer electronics companies, et cetera, I think you're going to see a big disappointment because the numbers haven't been moved down because they came in good for March.
So you're still bullish in the short term, but longer term, heading out towards
Order
November,
canceled.
Order filled.
around Thanksgiving, you're looking for the market to catch up to that reality as you see it?
Yeah, because right now, I mean, let's face it, we're human beings, right? You want to believe you're going to get through COVID fine, you're going to get through a financial crisis fine, people are going to have kids, there's going to be productivity improvements. I'm doing an event later today talking about that. And so investing is just basic faith in humanity's resilience. So you want to believe, oh, CPI came in low. Oh, PPI came in low. That's good. Oh, Micron's going to spend $100 billion or whatever they announced this morning.
I think they just said $150 billion, and it's going to create some 90,000 jobs, but they didn't put a time frame on it.
Well, of course, that's the great thing, right? You don't have to put a time frame. It could be over the next 100 years. Who knows, right? But the point is that you want to believe all that good stuff and not think about, well, when you have 25% of the world's GDP up 41% in terms of pulling forward demand, might that have an issue later this year?
So as a result, in your hedge fund, are you selling some of these stocks? Let's go specifically. Do you sell NVIDIA based on this? Do you like NVIDIA?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think you got to take the Magnificent Seven and split them completely apart. So with NVIDIA, we've been talking about since the middle of last year, we thought there'd be a digestion phase because training demand was going to flatten out. NVIDIA stock went down 49% from peak to trough, right? And you did see training demand start to level off. We wrote about, I think in April, that we really liked NVIDIA again because now you are seeing inference, which is it's answering your questions like where do I go stay if I'm going to Mexico on vacation, blah, blah, blah. And so you're seeing inference demand really take off. Google's talked about the tokens they've processed being up 5x in Q1 of this year versus a year ago. And I'm using Gemini and Grok probably 20 times a day now, where a year ago, not that often.
Yeah, I'm using Perplexity and Chat.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, Joe's probably using whatever he likes best. So all that usage is cranking up, and ultimately that's what you want this for. You're not interested in like the trained model. You're interested in getting answers.
Right.
And so I think with NVIDIA at a 35 times PE, and don't forget they had a big write-down. That's great because you've basically taken everything you were concerned about, tried to throw it into the write-down, and don't forget their margins were under pressure for 6 months. They're going to be de-risked. I like NVIDIA at these
What about Microsoft?
Microsoft's the other one I really like. So those are the two out of the Magnificent Seven. There's a simple reason for it. Microsoft was invested in OpenAI in 2019. This is before any of us had even heard of ChatGPT. And so their revenues for Azure, which is their cloud business, actually after disappointing in June, disappointing in the September quarter, disappointing in the December quarter, that's why I was worried about digestion. You get into the March quarter, their revenues actually accelerated by 2% in March versus December for Azure. For Google and for Amazon, which is the largest, their revenues actually decelerated by a couple of percent.
Okay.
So after 9 months of disappointment, they're, I think, starting to benefit. And don't forget, they did this Stargate initiative where they said, we don't have to take all of the OpenAI traffic. All the stuff we don't like, we have the right of first refusal. We can turn it over to somebody else. And we haven't talked about Oracle, but Oracle obviously last night had huge numbers driven by this inference as they look forward for this next fiscal year.
All right, Dan, I'd love to continue through the rest of the Magnificent Seven, get your thoughts on it. We're out of time, but you did mention that you're going to be headlining at this event coming up later today. That is the first CNBC Pro Live event. That's later today at the NYSE, and we're glad you stopped by here first.
Pleasure to be here, Becky.
Great to see you on set. Don't make any nasty proclamations this time. We'll be right back.
Introducing our icons, Peter Millar. Luxury meets performance.
I'm Tony Steen, digital strategist at AmericanEagle.com. After Kansas City Steaks experienced declining traffic and conversion rates, they came to us primed for online growth. We solve digital challenges like this all the time. By leveraging an omni-channel digital marketing strategy, KansasCitySteaks.com attracted new customers and significantly increased ROI. For complete website and digital marketing solutions, go to AmericanEagle.com.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Experience the power of CNBC Pro. Never miss a moment with exclusive access to market-moving interviews and stock picks. Become a smarter investor with the power of CNBC Pro. Go to cnbc.com/getpro now.
That looks really high.
It is high. Whenever you're ready.
Are there any snakes?
Nope.
You sure? Here we go.
It's time to push your limits.
You're doing great.
Whoa, is that a buffalo?
Babe, that's a cow.
The Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness. Adventure on the edge.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for what some might. It's a lot.
I stopped a war.
You seemingly acting as a representative of the United States.
I wasn't representing anybody except for me. And doing good.
I would question myself in the same situation.
People were going to die. Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
PG-13. Only Peter Shalai.
Good final check on the markets. That's about half on the Dow. It was about 250. A lot of the pressure is coming from Boeing, which was down about $17. Boeing's not down as much anymore, as people have said, hold on. We don't know anything yet in terms of what happened in the Air India crash, and to immediately begin talking about GE engines or Boeing aircraft. It's just too early at this point. So good, friendly inflation numbers, for whatever reason, not down quite as much. Make sure you join us tomorrow. Squawk on the Street's coming up right now.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with David Faber and Sarah Eisen at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Kramer has the morning off. Pre-market does indicate a lower open after 3 days of gains. Got another soft inflation print. Jobless claims grind a little higher. Some geopolitics at work as well regarding the Middle East and Iran. Dollar new 52-week low, and the euro soars. Let's begin, though, with the tragic news from overseas. An Air India plane bound for London has crashed into a residential neighborhood shortly after takeoff from an airport in the western India city of Ahmedabad. Aircraft was a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. The spokesperson for the airline tells NBC News the jet was carrying 242 people, including 12 crew members. Shares of Boeing down sharply on the news of the crash, although, as Joe said, guys, at this stage of any kind of aviation disaster, you really are blind to details and news, although there are a fair amount of pictures and video of the crash where obviously there were some residents of the neighborhood who were likely killed.
Yeah, I mean, the crash site would seem to indicate that. And watching firefighters, for example, putting out fires in a residential building. Yeah, we don't listen. You don't know, but it is reminiscent of other tragedies. And Boeing really only at the end of dealing with many of those that occurred. So we'll just have to wait and see. There's no real answers at all at this point, only questions.
Right, and so this is the worst accident for this type of plane, right? This is the most advanced wide-body airliner. And yeah, it's reminiscent of 2018, 2019, which was when the Boeing fatal crashes, where it was more on their shoulders, and they're still sort of dealing with the damage and the fallout. I guess the question, which we don't know, and we've repeatedly said that, is this an isolated incident, or was there some bigger problem with the aircraft? Or with the engine, which is made by GE, whose shares are also a little bit lower, in the pre-market.
Or is it pilot error, which is always a possibility?
You don't know, and no reports, I don't think, of survivors as yet, but we'll obviously monitor that and are thinking of them.
There have been some reports of a Mayday call upon takeoff. Our Phil LeBeau's been able to confirm that for now. Street hasn't really had much of a reaction in terms of research, although Morgan Stanley this morning does write, in our view, this event derails the positive momentum on Boeing stock, and we expect the news to be negatively received. At this time, they remain equal weight with a price target of 200. Let's get to Phil LeBeau with more on what we know at this early stage. Morning, Phil.
Hi, Carl. You know, as you guys mentioned, there are more questions than answers. The weather was clear by all indications based on the video that we've seen, so it really does come down to a couple of things. Was it a mechanical issue with the plane? Was it a mechanical or software issue with the plane and or the engines? Was it pilot error? Those are all things that investigators will be focused on. The Dreamliner, as well as the engines that powered this aircraft, they both have stellar track records. Yes, there were problems with the Dreamliner early on when it was first being developed and it was first entering into service. After that, it's had a very good track record. There have been occasional incidents where people have seen problems when it's lost altitude, and it has brought questions up about the reliability of the manufacturing. But none of that has ever been borne out with proof that there's a problem with the Dreamliner. As for the engines, which are made by GE Aerospace, they have a great track record. The GE NX-1B engine has been, it was essentially designed for the Dreamliner. It has a strong track record. So with that in mind, investigators will get the cockpit data recorder, the voice recorder. Those will give the biggest pieces of information that will immediately be able to say to investigators, okay, we think this is one of the primary causes for the accident. In the meantime, for investors, you know that when there is an accident, shares of the aircraft maker or the engine maker, they always sell off. Adding to that this time is the fact that both GE and Boeing have seen their shares really increase over the last year. And there's already been talk about perhaps a bit of a pullback is due for those stocks. So that may be contributing to a bit of the sell-off today. Again, guys, we should get more answers in the weeks to come. I don't expect them to get the cockpit data recorder and voice recorder within the next 24 hours. And even if they do, it's going to take some time to analyze it. It's going to be some time before we get some indication of what happened with this plane crashing shortly after takeoff.
Phil, the early last year incident they had, thankfully no fatalities, were where that door flew open. That was a different model. Yeah. That was 737 MAX. Correct.
It was a 737 MAX-9, and that was a completely separate incident. That was an Alaska Airlines aircraft where the door plug came off in flight because it had not been properly attached. So that was a but Sarah, you bring up a good point. All of this raises these questions that are going to swirl around Boeing for some time to come. Even as Kelly Ortberg and his team have made strides, have improved manufacturing processes. And that's been the commentary from airline executives, FAA people who are in there working with Boeing. All of them have said that Boeing has made strides and is improving. But you know how this goes. After the string of incidents we've had over the last several years, it's going to take more than several good months for investors and the general public to say, okay, that was a one-off. I'm confident in Boeing.
Meantime, Phil, I mean, we watched the continued battle between Boeing and Airbus. I'm sure Airbus didn't plan this, but they did roll out some revised 20-year demand forecasts today.
Yeah, and what you're seeing is what everybody expects. You are going to see continued growth, not only for Airbus, but also for Boeing and for all of the suppliers within commercial aviation. There is no slowdown in demand, guys. We're over here in France getting ready for the Paris Air Show, which starts on Sunday. And that's when we are expecting to hear from a number of chief executives, including Kelly Ortberg from Boeing, as well as Larry Culp from GE Aerospace. Interesting to see whether or not they will come here. Oftentimes after a tragedy, CEOs don't want to be going to an event and saying, hey, we got a lot of orders. It's poor form. It doesn't look good. So we'll see if they will be here or not. We've talked with them several times in the past, and we expect that at some point we will have a chance to have a conversation.
Heartbreaking beyond words is how the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi described it today. Phil, thank you. We'll look to you for any updates as we watch Boeing shares lower at the open. Another day of key inflation data. Got producer price inflation numbers. The index and the core rate for May both coming in up 0.1% from last month. And that is cooler again than expected after April's declines, guys. It's more evidence that we're just not seeing the kind of inflationary spark that many were expecting on the implementation of tariffs. Doesn't mean we're not going to see it. What it does mean is you put this with CPI, and then the estimates are going to start to come out for PCE, which is the Fed's preferred measure for May, and they look pretty tame going into at least this inflationary, environment that we have now. We're seeing lower inflation prices, and that's a good thing. And it may mean, Carl, that we're able to absorb any kind of price increases that we will see even better.
Yeah, we did hear from Fitch yesterday with a negative outlook for a lot of North American corporates. Their argument is that if the consumer can absorb the tariffs, that companies are going to have to pay for it, at least in a way of cutting costs or CapEx. JP Morgan yesterday did say we still think it may be too early to see signs of a sizable pass-through of tariffs to the consumer. Although Goldman talked to us yesterday and said this would have been a reasonable month to expect some of that to show up.
A lot of the tariffs have already been in place, and so far we're just not seeing. You see it in specific places. It's not like it's nowhere. Banana prices were up strongly month over month. We saw that in the numbers. Coffee, roasted coffee prices were up. Some of the toys and electronics, but it's not feeding into the overall numbers in any way that would cause the Fed to either think about hiking rates or think about maybe being closer to cutting rates.
Yeah, there's a 25% chance of a July cut today as we're starting to more fully price in a September cut. Oil, though, the reversal, $68 a barrel yesterday on news of these voluntary evacuations in the Middle East, potential reports of whether or not Israel is prepared, and certainly the rhetoric coming out of Iran has been pretty hawkish.
It's been hawkish, and same with, what President Trump has said this week is that he's losing confidence, although they're going into their 6th round of talks there. So oil prices actually giving back some of the overnight gains that we saw. I think the message on the economy, guys, is that so far, despite a lot of the doom and the gloom and the hand-wringing, this economy has absorbed the tariffs, at least in the early going, very well. First of all, jobless claims today also came out. They matched what they were last week, 248,000. They're a little elevated, so we're watching it, but they're not speaking of any broad signs of layoffs. Inflation, as I said, has not been any kind of major spike as some predicted. The market is up more than 20% from those post-Liberation Day lows. Add it all together, and the economy's taking it much better than I think any economist would have expected.
Yeah, GDP's fallen from the 3s to probably a 1 to 1.5.
It's totally distorted, though, by imports and exports right now.
Layoffs are up 80%. A 4-week average of jobless claims is at a 2-year high, almost a 2-year high.
And that's something we're watching it. More unemployed, harder to find jobs, but that's been going on for the better part of the last few years.
It's been gradual, for sure. Yeah. When we come back, several companies have seen their stocks surge after going public this year. Chime is the latest, hoping to join that list with its own debut. David talked to CEO Chris Britt. We'll get that next, first on CNBC. Meantime, take a look at the pre-market. Boeing is going to impact the Dow, but for now, looking at a modest lower open when the bell rings in just about 20 minutes.
He sure knows these parts well.
Folks say the planes whisper to him.
Outlaws in 500 feet. Rerouting.
Making a left!
Innovation changes everything.
Man, he's good.
With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Only ServiceNow connects every corner of your business, putting AI to work for people.
Every corner?
Every corner, Nick. So, Kate in HR, hey, Kate, can focus on people, not process. Patty in IT is using AI agents to deal with the small stuff so she can work on the big stuff. AI helps Jim solve customer problems before they're problems.
Oh, so we all work better together.
My work here is done.
Excuse me, which way back?
Life is always changing, and our Lovesac couch adapts to it all. Gathering around for game day one moment, reconfiguring for entertaining the next. And tomorrow, a new look entirely. Because Lovesac adapts to life, our life.
No city is immune from financial challenges. But with Assured Guaranty's municipal bond insurance, investors' bonds can be. Assured Guaranty, a stronger bond.
Introducing CNBC Plus, a new streaming platform from the #1 source in business news. On-the-go access to international financial markets, business news, and analysis as it happens. Bell-to-bell global live stream, CNBC Plus real-time data, and full episodes of CNBC's Business Day lineup on demand. CNBC Plus. Access any market, anytime, anywhere. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Hulu has live music. Get ready to Bonnaroo right from your living room as the biggest artists take the stage. Bonnaroo Music Festival. Streaming live to all Hulu subscribers. Presented by Venmo. Venmo everything with the Venmo debit card.
Alex understood where podcasting was going.
We're trying to make women feel respected and heard. I'm just getting started.
Presented by Experian, your big financial friend. A BFF for life.
Chime is set to begin trading today. This after it priced its IPO early last evening. It was above the expected range, $27 a share, about 32 odd million shares, valuing the online banking provider at about $11.6 billion. That, of course, before it begins trading. I did have the chance to sit down with the company's CEO, Chris Britt, last night. We talked, of course, about its customer base. It targets Americans that are earning $100,000 a year and less, and does so because they are not seen as being particularly interesting for the bigger banks in terms of at least the fees that are charged for various accounts where they may not have a lot of balances. Britt talked about how he continues to target those members versus the competition.
Today, Chime only trails JP Morgan and Bank of America. So we've really broken out in terms of being a company that consumers think of as a primary direct deposit relationship. And we help our members avoid fees, get access to short-term liquidity, build their credit, and build their savings. And it's that combination of services that really resonates and matters most to the everyday consumer.
Right, and that direct deposit relationship is obviously very important for you.
Yes.
A very large percentage of your customer
We
base.
have 2/3 of our customer base uses us as their direct deposit account and primary account relationship, and that unlocks a whole host of opportunities. You know, our average customer is doing over 55 transactions a month with our card, and if you look at the level of engagement that people have with our app and the card, it's somewhere around 4 or 5 times a day that people are interacting with Chime. So people think of Chime as really their primary financial dashboard for all elements of their life, and it's really working well. You know, people, I mentioned, to you in a prior meeting, consumers don't like Chime. They love it. They tell their friends about it, and that's it's actually our #1 driver of growth.
8.6 million people,
Yeah.
But what's the TAM here? What is the actual addressable market for what you're trying to do?
Well, in the medium term, we think the opportunity is there's about almost 200 million Americans that make up to $100,000 a year. We're at 8.6 million monthly actives, 2/3 on direct deposit and using us as a primary account. So we're less than 5% penetrated and a really long way to go in penetrating the everyday consumer that the big banks don't do a great job serving.
Right, right. You've been on your way to profitability, and obviously this year, I think your first quarter, you had over half a billion in revenues, so your run rate's got to be over $2 billion for this
That's
year.
right. We grew over 30% in Q1. We reached EBITDA profitability of about $25 million in Q1, and we've seen a very healthy trajectory on that front. Both the combination of top-line revenue growth, but also showing real operating leverage in the business.
Yeah. Well, all right. What would the all right? So I'm an investor here. What's the signal for me in terms of operating leverage and why that's going to continue, and/or the benefit I would assume from scale as you get more customers?
Yeah, I mean, on an adjusted EBITDA basis, we've improved by 40 points just in the last 2 years. So that trajectory is actually moving up pretty rapidly. And at the same time, we continue to open up many new active members quarter after quarter. We had an outstanding Q1. We grew our active member base by 23% year over year. So we're seeing growth in active members, we're seeing growth in revenue, and we're seeing growth on the earnings side.
And you
as well.
spend a lot of money on marketing to do that. I think it's what, 35% of revenue is what I read in your S1. You spent what, $1.4 billion between 22 and 24. Do you continue at that pace?
Well, we are very comfortable investing in high ROI marketing. And for us, the LTV to customer acquisition cost is something like 8 to 1. When you develop these deep primary account relationships, they pay off many, many years down the line. An average customer that's on direct deposit, as you know, industry stats show that those consumers stay active with a platform for very long periods of time. So we like how we monetize over a long period. And importantly, the way that we monetize our relationships is very different than a traditional bank. 72% of our revenue comes from payments-driven revenue when our cards get used for their everyday transactions. And we really like that because it's aligned with our member, and we aren't profiting from misfortune in the form of
so you're not
overdraft fees and monthly fees and all these sorts of things.
And all the things that people who obviously are earning $100,000 or less, it's a big hit. And, and it means a lot to them. That said, I think churning year one, as I was able to understand it, is about 50%. Then it goes down dramatically. But you're losing half of those people you're spending a lot of money to get to. What do you do to improve that? And should that be concerning to some investors?
Look, it is very easy to sign up for a Chime account. You can do it in 90 seconds. So that's kind of our front door. We don't have branch infrastructure and so forth, so we definitely get a lot of trial. And yeah, the key for us is converting people to get direct deposit to a Chime account. And once you do that, year 2 and beyond, our retention rates are in excess of 90%. So that's why these cohorts last for many, many years. And sometimes for people, it takes a change in life, a change in their career, a job change to be the point in time when they actually make the switch and use us as a primary bank account. So, we love getting people to sign up for direct deposit right out of the gate, but oftentimes it happens a little bit later.
Yeah.
And I think there is an opportunity for us to do an even better job of giving people access to Chime services when they're ready to maybe date before they get married.
All right. As our viewers probably know, performance of IPOs lately has been quite strong, whether it's CoreWeave or Circle. Yesterday, Voyager shares up sharply, eToro. We'll see whether Chime comes along with that, which has certainly been a very attractive window that has suddenly opened for those who are looking to come public. This company, by the way, was formed in 2012. It's been around for some time. It had a $25 billion private market valuation back at sort of a peak in 2021. And obviously today, at least coming public at a valuation of roughly half that. Nonetheless, they are more or less profitable at this point. And so, it's not as though they need the money as much as they want the visibility and the marketing that goes along with being a public company.
We talked to Ben Lehrer, was it this week, about how the longer sort of trend of being able to stay private, get financing as a private company, makes you more mature by the time you come to the street.
And this is more mature, although in the midst of its significant growth period and a growth phase, they hope. Unless the big banks should wake up and say, wait a second, we do see this as a potential profitable opportunity. That said, that's not the case. Jamie Dimon even continues to talk about the fact that, it's not profitable to keep somebody with a very small balance as a customer, essentially, given what it costs them, because they have, of course, a huge branch network. These guys do not.
They don't have a bank license, correct?
No, that's right.
I mean, it's interesting. They don't make their money by fees and deposits like a traditional bank. They make it by transaction fees, right?
Interchange fees is largely the largest single percentage. Yeah, that's right. They have FDIC insured accounts.
I wonder if they go for a bank license like SoFi has and some of the other fintechs eventually.
I don't believe that's necessarily in the
cards.
In the cards, in the strategy at this point, at least as it's been outlined to me.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on the NASDAQ, ticker CHYM. Take another look here at the pre-market. More Squawk on the Street will continue after this short break.
Some of us dream in color, others in black and white. In some dreams, we're an observer. In others, we're the star. Dreams come in many forms. Find yours during Mercedes-Benz Dream Days. Every CLE Coupe sold helps send a student to a junior achievement program.
Every great performance starts with a great night's sleep. Thanks to new Natrol Sleep and Restore, which helps me be this me, this me, this me. I'm kidding. To be my best at all of this, I have to be my best at this. Every great night's sleep starts with Natrol.
New Natrol Sleep and Restore for your ultimate restorative sleep.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Yikes. I'm thinking about adding to my fleet.
Tough decision.
Almost as tough as this lie. What do you think?
Safety scores are good. Policies are updated. I said go for it.
I was talking about my shot. But that's good advice.
Can I give you another piece of advice?
What's that? Wow.
Sentry, right by you.
That is good advice.
Thank you.
CoreWeave has been on a unique and truly extraordinary journey as we build the infrastructure that allows artificial intelligence to achieve its potential. We have built what is one of the most amazing companies and will be one of the most foundational companies on how artificial intelligence is delivered to the world.
Overtime's about understanding what just happened in the markets that day and preparing for tomorrow. I'm looking to talk to sophisticated investors, beginning investors. I'm always learning.
Closing Bell Overtime, weekdays 4 Eastern and streaming on CNBC+.
Pre-market's lower here after a 3-day win. Small caps got that bounce post-CPI yesterday, but down about 3% since then on IWM. Watch the dollar too, 52-week low off to the worst first half since the mid-1970s. Opening bell's coming up in a few minutes, and don't forget, you can catch us anytime, anywhere. Just listen to and follow the Squawk on the Street Opening Bell podcast.
The club is really about empowerment. Empowering you to manage your own money.
One of the key benefits for me is knowing where Jim is going to buy or sell before he does it.
Join the club today. Go to cnbc.com/join. Jim.
Good morning. We got what? 4 minutes? I don't think we're gonna dump. I don't know.
However you grill, we've got the perfect one for you. Because only your local Ace has all the best brands in one place, like Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, and Blackstone. That sounds pretty perfect.
You do want us to dump something long. Maybe that's 700.
Go to hulu.com/perks.
At PGIM, finding opportunity in fixed income today helps secure tomorrow. Contested fixed income suite, backed by over 145 years of risk experience, helps investors meet their goals. PGIM Investments, shaping tomorrow today.
2-minute, boys.
Basically the same.
What up, buddy?
Connection. Support.
Good morning. I'm not gonna go long yet. I'm gonna wait. The bot's long, but that's like what time it is. About an hour ago, so.
Every day, we're innovating smarter ways to make life better.
Yeah.
All across the world.
You see the squeezes, right? It looks kind of ugly. A lot of them too. So I can't tell if it's down or up because it's mixed. So I'm just gonna wait.
5 years of yesterday's. Nuveen knows your ultimate stakeholder. It's Nuveen. Invest like the future is watching.
The opening bell is brought to you by Nuveen. Invest like the future is watching.
We're rocking in terms of deals now. At a certain point,
We hit 700 on my long.
This is the deal. You can take it or you can leave it. You don't have to use it. You don't have to shop in the United States, as I said. So at a certain point, we'll do that. We're not quite ready. We're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be dumb. It'd be good. It'd be dumb. It's good for my puts.
President last night following going into that performance of Les Mis at the Kennedy Center, talking about the possibility of extending some of these tariffs.
Yeah.
Besson sort of reiterated that as well in front of the House Ways and Means. That notion of 90 deals in 90 days is pretty much over now.
No, Besson
10 seconds.
was a little bit more reassuring, soothing, because he said we could look at a situation where we postpone the more lenient, terms, the 10% instead of going back to the reciprocal tariffs past July 9th, if people are negotiating in good faith, which has really always been sort of the standard for them. It also comes after our interview yesterday with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, which was all just peachy after U.S. and China. I mean, he felt really good about the negotiations that they had in terms of appears to be China granting licenses.
Pump I expected. I always pump out open. Oh, my spy puts up a lot. That's 40 points. I mean, 15 minutes, the Oscar looks like it's gonna go up more, so damn it, we should have slung. Yeah, I'm gonna wait. Someone shorted on chat, so
with these rare earths and on the U.S. side with chips. Remember, the secretary told us that China kept asking
kind of
for
weak, 40 points and now it's stuck.
export controls, and he said we're not going to give them when it comes to compromising defense, but may give them on sort of other products like airplanes, for instance. Just listen to what Commerce Secretary Lutnick told us.
They are going to approve
all
applications for magnets from United States companies right away. Think of that language, right away. Very much like the same day. And then as they do that, we'll take off our measures, and we're in a great place with China.
That's some of the optimism and enthusiasm I talked about. It happened in a gold room, as Secretary Lutnick told us, which is perfect and fitting for President Trump. But no, seriously, maybe the market was disappointed that tariffs stay where they are, 55%. There's no more. That's, for U.S. importers, like retail, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel that in the market.
Isn't it? The journal reporting.
That's what the journal reported.
Yeah, 6 months. So if things go badly in 6 months, it can come back. The journal also, the editorial page, not happy with the strategy, saying Trump has no China trade strategy. Kind of interesting.
They've never liked the China trade strategy. They've never liked the tariff strategy. So that's pretty consistent.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah. With look, if China's opening its market more to us for things that we need, like these rare earths and manufacture.
They get free account, so it doesn't matter for him.
That ultimately,
it's about getting back to where we were before April, right? In terms of
opening up its market more to us.
granting more licenses.
Oh, yeah, but not opening up its market.
Well, that's ultimately the
Yeah.
goal, I would think. Or rebalancing, resetting the trade
Right, that
relationship.
is the goal. But to Carl's point, it's not clear that we're anywhere different than we were prior to the beginning of hostilities, so to speak.
Yeah.
Well, at least we're talking. And the
If
market,
he blows, it's fine. Don't give him more.
there's something there. At least they can talk.
Well, I know
think
Apex
what the
does. I don't
president would
know
argue is that he's
other
finally
firms give him
issuing the
freebies or
ultimatum
not.
to them and putting pressure on them through tariffs that both Democrats and Republicans for years have been trying to do when it comes to opening up their
I
market
think
and rebalancing their economy.
Rips is the same way too. They give him free shit just to YOLO.
Whether that can be effective, who knows? But that's what's
Cause you notice he blows his shit a lot, but not on his cash account. He's always green on his cash, but it's Apex. Green 4 days and blow it the next day.
Exports to us. Meanwhile, Lagarde's in Beijing.
Yeah.
So we'll see to what degree they'll try to bolster European ties with the notion that, I don't know.
I'm up
Europe's a
$60
more
on
trade
my
partner.
spy push. Think about taking it.
excited to talk to Janet Yellen. She's coming on with us in Money Movers. Remember, I went with her to China. She started really this conversation about how China needs to rebalance. And when she went over there, told it to them. But again, to your point, David, there's no indication they're actually going to do that. We'll see if the pressure from the tariffs and the Trump posture is any different.
They've taken a number of steps to conceivably try to augment consumer purchasing power. But, they've also got a very different society. They don't have as much of a social safety net, for example. People do save. The savings rate is just so much far higher than here, but in part because of the lack of that social safety net and things of that nature later on in life. So, yeah, it's an old lament, but... And it's not as though there aren't plenty of issues with the Chinese economy, as you well know, Sarah.
No,
there are.
Right. I mean, going back to
Just gotta get over 900.
Yeah, demographics. I just want to point out the U.S. dollar today because people are talking about it. We have now reached the low point.
Is Trump on today or no?
2.5-year low. And some people are wondering, dollar weakness is usually very good for stocks. I think it's part of the reason that the equity market has been so strong because exporters, multinational companies in the U.S. that do a lot of business abroad, it's helpful for earnings. But is this a bigger problem, a more pronounced period of dollar weakness where we really have to worry and think about some of the warnings of the Ray Dalios and the Jamie Dimons and, of the world about our fiscal problems? I'll just say one thing on that point, which is we had a 10-year auction yesterday. There was really good takedown of that, strong demand, really post-Liberation Day when we started worrying about demand for dollar assets and for U.S. debt and then the big, beautiful bill. So far, the market has absorbed it well. We get a 30-year auction later today. That's going to be a biggie. I think $22 billion. It'll be the first time the long bond will be up for sale. So that'll be a good test and barometer, I think, of demand. But overall,
Kind of want to short, but I don't want to fade the bot.
auctions and saying there's some sort of buyer strike or there's a protest by foreign buyers. It's just not what's happening. So we'll continue to watch it. What's also playing in, David, to the dollar weakness today is
I did a couple longs earlier, like 4 times, so I was following the ball.
inflation reports, and that gives the Fed more room to cut rates. It puts pressure on yields, and the dollar sells off, especially against, say, the Japanese yen on that.
Let's talk a little bit about stocks this morning. I want to start off with Oracle, perhaps the most important company, certainly reported earnings. That was after the bell. Oracle shares are up and up rather sharply. And you would imagine, given the tone of the call as well, that it would be having a positive impact sort of more broadly because they spoke very positively about continued demand for all of their services, particularly around the data center and AI. CEO Safra Katz talking about what might be a higher than anticipated CapEx number from the company. Vast majority of our CapEx investments are for revenue generating equipment for data centers, not for land or buildings. And she went on to say she expects fiscal year 2026 CapEx will be higher at over $25 billion as they work to meet demand from their backlog. And on that backlog, take a listen as well to what she had to say in terms of them even saying, well, hold on, customers, let's take it kind of not slow, but we got to wave you off for a minute. Take a listen.
We actually currently are still waving off customers from or scheduling them out into the future
Yeah.
so that we have
We got
enough
what?
supply
About 7
to
more
meet
minutes. I'm just gonna
demand.
wait.
This is a situation that we have not seen in our history, and the numbers themselves are so enormous. And the reason is because our technology is different.
Fiscal year 26, they're talking about total cloud revenue growing as much as over 40% in constant currency. That's up
Yeah,
from a
15 minutes still looks good. I think in a little bit we might run out.
Cloud infrastructure as well, up 70%. That's where the focus is. That's why the stock is higher this morning, guys. It's a very strong report. Larry Ellison also on the call. Worth a read, by the way, if you care at all about data infrastructure and what's going on there, obviously.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
are one of the
dang.
partners in Stargate, the enormous facility being built in Abilene, Texas to power OpenAI, which, by the way, on its own also continues to set new records in terms of users.
They said on the call, actually, that the Stargate project is still in the early stages. So it doesn't seem like that has really picked up. But that ultimately, if
Yeah,
Stargate turns out
the
to be
3
everything
minutes
it's
looks like it
advertised,
might go up a little
that
bit
could be
more.
upside
Looks like
to their
it.
growth.
We should have long at 8:30 earlier.
At this point, I don't know if he's
That was a good
hyperbole or
chance to
he was
long.
just super bullish, on the call. We recently got his word that will take all the capacity you
Yeah.
have, whatever it is.
You mentioned the CapEx guidance.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
25 Street was looking
over 25 billion.
I think
Yeah.
cash flow has really been the only complaint this morning because free
Cash flow was negative. Yeah. Operating cash flow obviously got to free cash flow because they're spending so much. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Melius with an amazing chart of the number of gigawatts we will need by 2030. We're in the mid-40s now. We think we're maybe going to 150, and he uses what he calls Jensen math, Ben Reitzes, to talk about the incremental revenue opportunity, not just for NVIDIA, but for everybody.
Yeah.
You're talking
No, that's the TV talking. It's not me.
If you take those numbers at face value.
It's amazing. And of course, we do talk about power being the potential, the gating issue really in terms of the build out of all the data centers that are going to have all the NVIDIA chips and everything else in there, including obviously everything Oracle and Cisco. I mean, everybody, Broadcom selling into the data center and that being the gating issue. That said, I also starting to hear people talking about, well, the cooling technology is going to continue to improve. We're going to continue to get efficiencies, and that these estimates in terms of how much power is going to be needed, maybe as time goes on, they will start to come down. We'll see.
There was, did you see the D50 company,
Right.
Gecko Robotics this
Are
morning?
you trying to short?
Part of their
Are you gonna long?
is helping existing grid capacity, which is going to fall off.
Yeah, me too, but I need to change it up. I gotta increase my long, maybe at 840.
Have a longer life. Yeah.
Let me put it down.
Also
I'll
look at
try
stuff like
840.
Oklo, which, continue, they got a new contract. I mean, this is for nuclear power, but looking for power sources wherever they can. Also, Jensen Huang made some headlines yesterday. He spoke at a keynote in Paris and spoke with analysts as well, talking
823 is when it bought long. Yeah.
Spoke to him, but just on this idea of partnering with everywhere he goes in the world. I mean, he was in Europe and he was talking about new partnerships with on drug discovery, on Siemens, on AI manufacturing. It was sort of similar to when I saw him in Saudi Arabia and he was making big partnerships there. There's just the sovereign AI theme and what that represents in terms of new demand in this whole AI cycle, really strong.
Yeah, Oklo's down a bit because of this reports of a share offer, $400 million.
After a huge day yesterday.
Yes. GME, David, down on this new convert to ostensibly buy more Bitcoin. A little trend here, mini trend of companies either
Thank you.
offering
Can't get
shares
over
or
that.
converts
Keep going back down.
weighing on some of their share prices. Yeah, they
We got 4 minutes left.
Strategy to a certain extent in terms of at least their ownership of Bitcoin. We had a SPAC that is also pursuing that strategy as well. I think there's one associated with counterfeits. Yeah, that's a big loss, but that's the strategy now. Obviously, under their CEO Ryan Coe runs that company. Yep.
I'm watching Starbucks also, guys. Big mover yesterday. So Starbucks held its leadership experience in Las Vegas, where they had thousands. It was kind of a rally cry. Howard Schultz was there, the founder of Starbucks, on stage with Brian Niccol, who's the CEO. He said he was doing cartwheels when he heard Niccol's back to Starbucks campaign. A lot of rah-rah momentum. Also, Niccol, I thought it was interesting, told the Financial Times that there's a lot of demand for partnering with their China business. That's a big question of what they're going to do, which has slowed down. in recent years as they faced tougher competition from local players. On Starbucks, the stock, it's done very well lately, but kind of got off to a bumpy start earlier in the year, and it's trading back near levels. Remember when it shot up 25% after Brian Niccol was announced to become the new CEO? We're kind of back there. I think it remains a show-me story on the turnaround.
I tried it last night. It's boring.
Beverages on your cups. They're planning to hire a lot more people. He did talk about that could raise questions on spending for Wall Street and on margins, but it's unclear exactly what the full strategy is for reviving Starbucks, but that's, something investors have been optimistic just in the last few months.
I think we're back in the green from the day Niccol started.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, we're back to that point, but still have to see more evidence and more proof. And
I'll sure if we get over 22,000, but for now, I like a long.
Experience. It feels like there's a lot of acknowledgement of that management. Let's see how they fix it.
Nice.
There's some weakness in airlines this morning.
Guys, payout chip.
Given that Boeing is the worst performing S&P, but United's right behind. Delta's in there as well. Yesterday, the CFO of American Express spoke at the Morgan Stanley Financials Conference, and he did say that airline spending in Q2 is relatively unchanged from Q1. Kind of soft, given that you would expect seasonality to start to kick in. He did point out that European travel to the U.S. and Canadian travel to the U.S. is weak. So that might be getting folded into, obviously, the safety concerns.
The biggest question mark is what's happening with the consumer. Always a question, but look, we know some of the
it's not
travel
going anywhere.
lines have slowed down. We've heard that those mornings from airlines, hotels a little bit as well, too, but they still maintain pretty bullish.
Stuck in the same area.
The consumer is hanging in there. When I looked at the Bank of America, they do a retail survey. They ask 1,000 consumers. They did one for June, so it's really quite near term. They do it as a sort of preview to what we can expect.
That looks like it. I do want a long, but not towards high day. See, the 3-minute squeeze now is to the upside coming up. It's about a trigger.
Expectations that they track decline, they say, but nothing really substantially. Plans to buy new appliances dropped the most from 35% last year to 31% this month. So nothing really crazy, but people are feeling a little bit more nervous. We see that caution. We hear about it from companies. We're not talking about recessionary kind of declines in spending, but it is something we'll watch because ultimately that's going to be the telltale sign of how this economy holds up, despite the tariffs.
I mean, we do know that seriously defaulted delinquencies on credit cards are at a multi-year high, and if you couple that with what's happening with the 4-week average of jobless claims, then you can start to paint a picture of a nervous
Here we
consumer.
go. Or is it? Yeah, it's 8:45 or 9:45 now.
There's been this little trend, as the market has expanded, we've gone to
8:40.
6,000, we've increased 20%. There's been an expansion of the rally. Some of the losers
15 minutes is long, 30 minutes too short, 3 minutes is long.
Because
So.
they were under a lot of pressure around tariffs, around concerns about the consumer. Some of them are in turnaround plans. So acting a little better, though today we're off, 0.1% on the S&P.
One stock that has been performing extremely well for quite some time is Netflix. Stock up again, a little less than 1%, but almost 38% for the year. We've talked a lot about it, but on the subject of tariffs, if you recall, I think it was the very beginning of May when the president, through a post on social media, on Free Social, introduced the idea of 100% tariffs. It's very much unclear exactly what it really would, in terms of Hollywood, but there weren't any details. We haven't really got any follow-up whatsoever.
That's where you're going wrong? 8:55?
We may have, the company's co-CEO was asked about sort of production, where they're doing it, and whether there would be a significant impact perhaps from tariffs down the road in some fashion or other.
We've got good infrastructure in many places. We've got a lot of great talent. And, states are highly competitive on a state-by-state basis with production incentives that allow us to
It's the same range. I'm gonna.
places like New Jersey, where we're building
I'm gonna try long 860.
or New Mexico.
I put in a long. 8.6 is my long now if it hits.
So you're not too worried about 100% tariffs then?
Well, I'd say we try to focus on things that we can control. And, if we have a specific proposal to respond to, we will, but nothing really material yet.
Yeah, there was no details around that, no real follow-up on that, and I don't know that that's...
It's not gonna be a good long, but it's just boring.
Maybe Mel Gibson's holding them up. Production, it was again, it was very hard to understand exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't get a follow-up, so...
Although
I would like to see 22,000 again, but
where they've
we'll
spent
see.
£1 billion a year since 2020 on production.
Enormous production facilities in the UK. That has been a lot of big movies are made in the UK. That's right. The studios there.
Before we hit the break, it's time for the bond report. Let's show you how Treasuries are faring this morning. There's a bid. It's been buying of bonds. Coming off of yesterday's strong 10-year auction, we got PPI and CPI both showing tamer inflation, which leads the market to getting more excited about Fed cuts. All of that is helping bonds rally. 10-year yield 4.37. 30-year yield ahead of the big auction later this afternoon, 4.865. We'll be right back.
Are you already long?
The Bond Report is brought to you by PIMCO, a global leader in active fixed income. Pedro's parents planned for adventure, but they didn't plan for him to make a new best friend. The unit to get him in the pocket for save packages. Expedia, made to travel.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is
No,
wrong,
your name's on a wheel. I see it.
go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
ZipRecruiter finds qualified candidates for me. I can't believe how I used to do it before. None of these candidates are qualified. Step with a cat influencer. Now I'm getting people who are the best fit for my roles. ZipRecruiter. Try it free at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
This thing is so good for your gut health. I used to have collagen. I used to have probiotic, green juice. I replaced it all with this Pharma colostrum. My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking it.
Stock investors, learning to use options could improve your returns when stocks rise and turn losing stocks into winning trades. Our new book can show you how.
I got the book and I read it in a weekend. And it's just like,
On measure being successful.
I have a couple stocks, but I don't have many of them anymore. It's all options for me. I highly recommend everyone gets John and Pete's book because there's nothing else out there like it.
Get your free copy today at itsnotanoption.com. That's itsnotanoption.com.
This is a premium hand-selected bacon wrap filet mignon that's aged for tenderness and trimmed to perfection. This is a necktie. What do you think Dad wants for Father's Day? Visit omahasteak.com/TV to order the Dad's Want Steak package today for just $99.99.
I'll come back up.
We'll include 8 additional burgers free. So get into this. Not this. This. Go to omahasteaks.com/TV today because Dad deserves it. Just a little Father's Day wisdom from Omaha Steaks.
Goldilocks needs a place of her own, and fast. Thankfully, she's on Redfin. They update their listings every 2 minutes. And with so many options, she's bound to find exactly what she wants.
This one's just right. Is she moving?
What's happening? It is happening.
The CNBC Disruptor 50 list revealed. Meet the innovative company shattering boundaries, shaking up industries, and changing the game for good.
I might cancel my loan. No, it still looks good.
Disinflation, that's why this move on oil is so interesting. Hitting the 68 yesterday, multi-month high. JP Morgan's out this morning with a worst case attack on Iran. They argue would take oil to 120 and CPI 5. We'll keep our eye on that. Dow's down 190. Stay with us.
For adults with obesity, Zepbound means change.
It's changing what I believe is possible when it comes to weight loss.
Zepbound helps adults with obesity lose weight and keep it off.
There you go. Let's come back up.
Don't take if allergic to it, or if you or someone in your family had medullary thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Tell your doctor if you get a lump or swelling in your neck. Stop Zepbound and call your doctor if you have severe stomach pain or a serious allergic reaction. Severe side effects may include inflamed pancreas or gallbladder problems. Tell your doctor if you experience vision changes, depression, or suicidal thoughts before scheduled procedures with anesthesia.
Kind of want a short. 3 minutes near the top. I'm gonna try the short real quick.
Taking Zepbound with a
Order canceled.
Yeah, just a small size.
Order filled.
Order filled.
Order submitted.
Yeah, a short of 85.
Order filled.
And I'm out. I just took my short and got out. Because the 3 minutes is near the top.
With exclusive access to market-moving interviews and stock picks, become a smarter investor with the power of CNBC Pro. Go to cnbc.com/getpro now.
At Burger King, we flame grill our burgers. Why? Because that's how it should be done. Hot, juicy, smoky, flame grilled, and made your way. Come experience the flame grilled difference with 2 Whopper Juniors for just $5.
Ace, however you grill, we've got the perfect one for you. Because only your local Ace.
That's where you're gonna exit. 892.
Like what? Big green egg, Traeger, and
Yeah.
Just 49 keys inside a metal thing from 1958. Or
Yeah, take some profit.
first step to becoming a writer. Be your best friend. Or becoming a chef who makes non-American. Or starting a travel team that takes you from South America to Scandinavia to
What's up, town?
whatever you want to be. One step can take you everywhere you want to be.
NVIDIA's Jensen Huang issuing a warning to the U.S. when it comes to imposing these chip restrictions on China.
My spy put's still green for some
Paris
reason.
at the Viva Technology Conference, where he talked to NVIDIA's CEO earlier today. Arjun, good morning.
Good morning, Carl. It's been Jensen mania here in Europe for the past few days. He was in London, now he's in Paris, and there's been a slew of deals announced around NVIDIA and infrastructure deals here in Europe. But I had a chance to catch up with Jensen Huang, and I wanted to know a bit more about this China equation right now. Of course, those chip restrictions on the H20 continue. They took $4.5 billion write-down in their last quarter on that unused inventory, and Huang has been very critical of some of these U.S. restrictions as well. But for Jensen Huang, it's not just about business.
875.
This is about America's standing.
Wait, you shorted or you long?
That was his message. Let's just
Nice, nice. Yeah, I short 85 earlier.
If China when China starts to aggressively diffuse their AI technology, so long as all the AI developers are in China, I think
There's some news going on with China. That's why it's dipping. Yeah.
near-term actions on long-term unintended consequences, and it's our job.
Oh, it's NVIDIA and the chip restriction with China.
The nature of our technology and the dynamics of our industry, and then after that is to support our president.
I just want to unpack that a little bit, because what he's saying there is if U.S. firms are cut out of markets, it reduces the chance of U.S. technology to spread worldwide. At the same time, China's AI technology is getting a lot better, and there's a world in which countries, perhaps in emerging markets in Africa, in Latin America, even in places in Asia as well, may
You got out? You took a loss?
on the Chinese tech stack,
Oh,
all the way
damn.
from telecommunications through to data centers, chips, and the software as well. And ultimately, that will be bad for U.S. companies and U.S. standing in the AI race. That's his view, and that's what his big concern was. And just very quickly, on Huawei in particular, because I asked him about this on another part of the conversation, of course, they're trying to create rival chips to NVIDIA over in China. There were comments earlier this week from the founder of Huawei who tried to downplay the Chinese company's progress when it comes to AI chips. But actually, Jensen Huang told me that he thinks Huawei is only a generation behind NVIDIA at this point. But if NVIDIA can't participate in the Chinese market, then Huawei has China covered. That's what he said, and that was his big concern when it comes to AI chips in China, guys.
All right, now Arjun, he's been pretty consistent as his world tour continues. Appreciate you bringing that to us, Sergeant Corporal in Paris today. When we come back, the latest on the Air India Boeing 787 Dreamliner crash. Stay with us.
Management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result.
We do the spin the wheel at 10, so 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes.
Management experience, as sophisticated as you are. It's time for coordinates.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Life is always changing, and their Lovesac couch adapts to it all. Gathering around for game day one moment, reconfiguring for entertaining the next. And tomorrow, a new look entirely. Because Lovesac adapts to life, our life.
And this is my TimberTech story. We have with your
I'm not short anymore. I'm out, Dan.
TimberTech, it's maintenance free. The advanced PVC from the naked eye, it looks as if it's real wood. There simply isn't anything there. We have historically got big hurricanes here. We have no worries about the decking or anything at all because it's so strong. Playing golf for a living, I'm traveling all the time. Knowing that we have TimberTech, that's one less thing we got to worry about. TimberTech, it's everything wood should be.
Retire? Well, hope isn't a good retirement strategy. You've worked for a comfortable retirement for years. Now you need to plan for retirement income. Learn ways to avoid common mistakes, like being too conservative or not setting retirement goals. Have someone on your side to keep you on track. Call for Fisher's Comfortable Retirement Kit with the help you need to make your retirement.
Oh, stop you about 2 points. Damn.
Guide to a comfortable retirement. 13 retirement blunders to avoid and maximize your Social Security. Call 1-800-759-4477. Fisher tailors a plan to keep you on track for a retirement you want. And as a fiduciary, we do better when our clients do better. Call now for your comfortable retirement kit. Call 1-800-759-4477. Call us today. You don't have it coming to you unless you plan for it. If your portfolio is $1 million or more, call 1-800-759-4477.
Hey, wait, yeah, it's 10 o'clock. No, nothing, no movement. It's boring. Shuffle, shuffle, spin.
So we're about to witness the world's best golfers live. And this field,
I don't think you're a dad. I think he's young.
Thursday morning, welcome back to Squawk on the Street. I'm Sarah Eisen with Carl Quintanilla and David Faber. We are live at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Stocks have come back from a little morning sell-off here. The S&P climbing toward the flat line. A number of sectors positive now. Utilities, real estate, information technology. Thank you, Oracle.
Let me respin it.
Materials and healthcare. Still have stocks up about 0.4 for the week on the NASDAQ, about 0.3 for the S&P 500. A mix of geopolitical headlines today, another benign inflation report, trying to figure out what comes next on the trade front. Treasuries are rallying.
He's a dad, right? Smooth, are you a dad? I think you are.
Maybe means the Fed can cut more. That's leading to a bond rally. 30-year yield now 4.87% today. Secretary Bessent back on the Hill.
I'll check
Treasury
with him.
Secretary testifying this hour before the Senate Finance Committee. We'll bring you the highlights as we get them. Plus, much more from David Faber's conversation with the CEO of Chime as the fintech company gets ready for its public debut later today at the NASDAQ.
First over the breaking story in the morning, an Air India flight carrying more than 200
I
passengers
need to spin one more.
crashing in the western city of Ahmedabad. Shares of Boeing were down sharply after it was reported the plane was a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Our Philabo is back with what we know so far this morning.
He is a dad, I knew it. And then he's a dad, so here we are good.
The video then was
fed in minutes after this crash shows that this plane went down in a fairly populated area not
Let me
far from the
delete this so
airport
you can see the
in
charts.
northwest India. And
I will do the YouTube giveaway in about an hour in the videos.
do they know about what happened? Well, it only got to 621, 625 feet in the air before it plunged out of the sky. There were 242 people on board. It crashed shortly after takeoff. Now the focus is going to be, okay, did anybody survive? And if there's no survivors, the recovery of victims. That's the focus right now and will be likely for the next 24 hours or so. The NTSB and the FAA are likely to help with the investigation. Here's how it goes. When there is a crash in a country, that country leads the investigation, but almost always they will ask the FAA or the NTSB to assist with the investigation. NTSB would be the lead investigator there. The FAA would provide technical expertise. In terms of the Dreamliner, despite the problems when it was initially launched, and we covered those extensively back in that 2006 to 2011 time period, despite those problems, since then, the Dreamliner has had a pretty good track record. In fact, this is the first crash involving a Dreamliner. Boeing is in the process of increasing its production of the Dreamliner from 4 per month up to 5 per month. Take a look at shares of Boeing over the last year. It is also expected within the next couple of months to ask the FAA for an increase in 737 MAX production. We'll see if this investigation influences that decision by the FAA. And then finally, take a look at shares of General Electric. GE Aerospace, I should say. The Gen X engine has a strong reliability record, and when you talk with people within the industry, they will say time and again, GE NX is a solid engine. Now the question becomes, did something go wrong with the two engines on this aircraft?
I don't think the long looks good right now, so careful with long.
More questions than answers, guys.
Phil, we
Oh,
mentioned
you still
before
short
some of the
game.
Boeing safety incidents. We mentioned the ones in 2018 and 2019, Lion Air, Ethiopian Air, the door thing last year. How much has Boeing done to improve the safety standards and the perception? Because that's a blow. I mean, let's wait to find out more. Obviously, it's not the headline.
You're absolutely right, Sarah. Sarah, this is a blow. Sorry to step on you a bit there, but this is a blow to its efforts to improve its reputation and the quality controls that they have put in place. And by all measures, when you talk with airline CEOs, we were talking with Scott Kirby, a week ago, and he said, look, they're doing a far better job with the aircraft that they're delivering. And he's not alone. We're hearing that from other aircraft CEOs or the CEOs of aircraft leasing companies, which are taking these aircraft straight from Boeing. This has all been under Kelly Wartburg, but he knows he's got a long ways to go. Where they are right now is just the basics of blocking and tackling and manufacturing. Then they're going to increase production rates. But there's no doubt that this crash will raise fresh scrutiny about the reliability of Boeing airplanes.
Okay, Phil, we'll turn to you as we get more information. Thank you very much. Or Phil LeBeau. The big news on the economy today, more good news on inflation.
Dude, the market's so choppy.
Price inflation sometimes precedes consumer price inflation, coming in at a tame 0.1% increase for the month of May. That was better than expected. It follows CPI yesterday, consumer price inflation, which for the fourth month in a row came in lower than expected. I mean, if you look even inside core PPI, ex-food and energy was up 0.1%. A lot of the economists look there. You can also look through some of the components here because economists like to extrapolate this to predict the PCE, which is what the Fed looks at as its preferred inflation measure. You look at things like airfare prices, transportation prices in there, and it's pointing to another sort of benign read on PCE. Bank of America says 0.2% increase for the month of May on PCE core. So that's, core number should go up to about 2.6% core from 2.5% because of base effects. But the bottom line is, I like what David Rosenberg just said, waiting for Godot on tariff inflation. Yeah, Godot. But also,
Let me send his money
more
real
commonly,
quick.
but sure. But also, Dion Dada, Renaissance Macro, has called it tariff derangement syndrome because people are so worried about all this inflation and tariffs, and we're just not seeing it yet. Maybe it comes a little bit later, but maybe it also comes.
I ain't nothing on NQ. I'm flat. It's too choppy.
Goldman just now raising their full year GDP from 1 to 1.25. cutting their peak job list from 4.5 to 4.4. They talk about easier financial conditions.
It's been long at
lower inflation prints,
8:23.
and
I
then
got some
they're
of it.
arguing some measures of trade policy uncertainty have moderated as we've inched our way to de-escalation.
Right, and that's what the market's telling you, all of that combined. So the question is, can the Fed cut now? 2 rate cuts? You know, what the Fed has not changed its line, at least Chair Powell, that it is in wait-and-see mode. The other factor for all of this, of course, is employment. We got jobless claims today. 248,000 Americans filed for unemployment claims, same as the revised last week. So it's moving up, as you can see on the chart there, but it's still at historically low levels. I think you can say overall.
Oh, damn. It was long earlier. Now it went up to 92. Wow. It's just all that.
Side of the picture versus inflation. I think that's what the
Stop
economic
them
data
now
is
and
telling
then
you today. That's why the dollar's weakening to a 2.5-year low, why bond yields are under pressure on a rethink of what the Fed's going to do.
Do we buy the, some argue today with the euro 116, if it's trying to assert itself as some kind of alternative safe haven?
Well, I mean, Europe is looking at a lot of what's going on right now and trying to take advantage of the opportunity where, you know, Christine Lagarde, the ECB president, has given speeches about how we need to be this stability for investors and for trade and more open on trading relationships. So maybe there's some of that, but overall, you've seen a pretty broad weakness in the U.S. dollar. You're seeing it against the Japanese yen. You're seeing it in other places. As far as whether people are, you know, foreigners are dumping U.S. assets, it's not really showing up that much in the bond auctions. Let's see what 30 years shows us today, but didn't see it in the 10-year. Haven't really seen that. You get a weak number, and guess what? You get a big rally in the bond market. And that's what
Are
we're
you in
seeing
long?
in the inflation numbers.
Yeah, certainly as the S&P erases its early losses here now, back to flat. Meantime, with the hearing with the Treasury Secretary is now underway. Joining us this morning, Roger Altman's here at Post 9.
I guess I gotta wait for a dip, but can't long. I might want to short because
Good to see you. Not sure where you want to start if you believe.
I just want to take a trade.
Pick up on something that you just said, which is Goldman has raised its growth forecast for the year from 1, I think you said, to 1.25.
Yes.
But put that in perspective. At the beginning of the year, the widespread consensus, January 1, for U.S. growth was in the 2s. Now everybody has.
Yeah, I should have shorted when it hit 1097.
Goldman had gotten all the way down to 1. That obviously reflects a slowdown, and a lot of that is usually traced to policy uncertainty or tariff uncertainty. And so what's really going on is the beginning of a slowdown. Now, it's not dreadful. We're not going off a cliff, but the economy is slowly shifting into a lower gear, largely on account of policy, and it's showing up a little bit in the labor market data. Fortunately, not too much yet, but monthly job numbers are coming down. If you look at them over 2 or 3 year period, you know, there are about twice as many jobs being created per month a year ago as there are now. So I think that's the main headline about the U.S. economy, beginning to slow. Now, equities are very high, and there's a little bit of a contradiction there. And we'll see
I don't know what to do with this market.
If we see greater evidence of slowdown, it's really all about the consumer. Whether the equities correct or whether they don't. And obviously the inflation data is helping equities because it's very favorable and benign. But then you say to yourself, why is inflation improving to this degree? Why are oil prices where they are? Why are interest rates come down 30 to 40 basis points? And part of the answer is this
Weaker growth.
Yes.
But you can also look at it, Roger, as the administration came in and said, I mean, Secretary Bessent was very clear, we're going to see slower growth as we try to
I
move
don't
away
touch
from
gold
a
anymore.
government-fueled,
ES is running
inflation-fueled,
up now too.
stimulus-fueled economy back to the private sector, and also rebalance the entire trading relationship of the globe. And given some of those major risky undertakings, economy so far is holding up well.
Yes, but, and look, I want the economy to do well and markets to do well. So, but when the administration first took office at the very beginning, this idea of an interim disturbance wasn't their message.
Sure.
When they began to roll out the tariff policies and there was quite a blowback, then they said, look, we're going to have to go through a period of some pain or painfulness. But I mean, that's not what they wanted, and that's not what they initially sought.
The 3-3-3. You wanted 3% GDP, right? You wanted 3% budget deficit. On the trade front, do you think this decline, this slow decline, can be managed with a series of rolling
deferrals and extensions and handshakes?
Well, I think there's a growing sense that the impact of tariffs on growth will be a little more moderate than people initially feared. And part of that is the administration's own, it's on, it's off, it's paused, it's delayed. And there's a sense that maybe they won't be end up as high as people thought and for as long as people thought. For example, the biggest duality or bilateral
He's
issue here
strong
is
now.
China. And what just happened over the last couple of days?
Order filled.
Short.
Order
It's
submitted.
essentially a truce.
It's a bad short, but
It's
it's
a
itchy.
decision to pause. And I have to think the Chinese are playing this shrewdly. And even though they don't have as good a hand in the thing from a long-term point of view as we do, because they're so much more export dependent. But we'll see. But I think people are beginning to say that the impact of these tariffs, while negative, may not be as high or as big or last as long as we might have initially feared.
Your day job is still, a lot of it's still advising companies, right, on whether they should do a deal or advising them how to avoid an activist.
That's what they tell me.
I mean, talking about things that we anticipated that haven't happened yet, and the stock of the company you helped found, Evercore, soared at the end of last year because we thought we were going to have a M&A free-for-all. Certainly hasn't happened in the first 5.5 months of the year. What are you seeing, hearing in terms of dialogue or expectation?
A bit of a pickup. And you've seen in the last week or 10 days a spate of announcements. You follow them very closely, and I might say very well.
Thank you.
The power sector and infrastructure is strong. Technology is strong. And biotech is not as strong as a lot of people thought, but continuing to be active, very active. So there's a few strong sectors. Now, global dollar volume year over year, the kind of biggest measure, is up. Not a lot, but it's up. Right?
Oh, dang.
But the number of deals year over year is down, especially smaller deals.
Next level is 974. Ouch.
So for us, business is a bit better. I do think there's a big pent up demand. And at the very beginning of the year, pre-Trump, as you say, there was a sense we're going to have a big year in M&A. And now, apropos of the comments we just had about maybe people getting used to the tariff impacts or what they may be, I think there's a sense that some of that pent-up demand is beginning to express itself. I don't want to overdo this. There's no boom occurring, but I think there's a bit of a pickup.
Yeah, although there's still a regulatory question, obviously. The uncertainty question is probably the larger one.
David,
Yeah, it's just gonna go up now.
With the exception of big tech, which is a big exception.
Yeah.
We're going to end up with a more notably more
Just wait for the
permissive
bot.
regulatory approach.
I think the bot
once
got
the
100 points soon. Yeah, that's 100 points on the bot.
And there haven't been enough test cases. But I think that's my own view at least, and I think a lot of people watch it closely think is we're going to end up with a more permissive, more favorable environment from a regulatory view, except for big tech.
The other question we keep running into is, to the degree we are deregulating and getting more permissive, as you put it, are the Europeans also trying to get religion on that front and narrow that spread?
I don't know the answer to that. Just a little too soon to tell.
Dude, you're long. Look at your long now. You didn't get stopped out.
It becomes clear that the United States has taken that step toward a greater, more permissive environment.
Like it dumped for you and then just took off.
I don't think there's much and some of it has to do with
You were,
politics and of course which leaders are where in Europe. We'll see. I don't know.
What do you think of the big
trust the bot.
for the economy and the fiscal situation?
Well, having been,
Since you've been
Yeah, that's true.
here this morning, I have to be direct about that. I think the big beautiful bill is terrible.
Terrible.
Terrible. It's terrible from the point of view of fiscal policy. I saw an estimate this morning that the debt to GDP
I took
relationship,
a short at 905.
is
Just
going to
small
rise to
sizing.
184% debt to
But
GDP, which is
I might have to cut it later
and
or add more to
stability
it.
about 140. And this is not the moment we need to increase deficits because we're running a $2 trillion deficit right now in a pretty decent economy. Second of all, the regressiveness of the bill. The idea behind this bill is, you know what? Let's cut taxes, especially for well-off people, and do a little paying for it with reduced Medicaid and SNAP food stamps. Now, I'm sorry, that is just not a fair approach.
Yeah.
People like me don't need
Well, it's
more
near
tax
all-time
cuts.
high.
And
Can't go up
all this
much.
talk about waste, fraud, and abuse in
But then
Medicaid
someone's
and SNAP,
keeping it up, like it won't dump.
the amount of waste and fraud in SNAP, which is food stamps, is like this. Okay, so I think it's a terrible bill, and I think it's going to pass in some form or other, because I think there's too much momentum from the Republican point of view for it not to pass. But I think it's terrible.
I thought you might have something to say about it.
The House is going to vote on some rescissions today.
It's high a day again.
Trying to defend it in front of the Senate. Roger, thanks. Good to see you.
Let me see the 3 minutes. 3 minutes is. Yeah, the 3 minutes near the top. Short. Size it down.
Orders submitted.
925. Hit 925. I'm going to short.
Company is going public today, priced at
Yeah, you got 2 points. Gotta need 10 points to get the giveaway.
and how the company's customer base differs from traditional banks such as JP Morgan.
And GM betting big on America. We'll talk to former board member John McNeil, former Tesla president, about the company's multi-billion-dollar commitment to American manufacturing as Micron has some news on that front as well today. The Squawk of the Street continues.
Get a short in. Get that 10 points. It's not that hard.
We design them, we build them. And one day, we have to let them fall.
3:15 seconds.
What's up, Gambit? Just woke up. What do you mean? Yeah, pro? Wait, did you follow the bot? But bot was long at 823, 100 points. Bot.
Subaru and our retailers are there to help.
Oh, you just shorted just now or earlier?
To help support nearly 500,000 patients facing
Oh,
cancer
come
nationwide.
on.
Subaru is proud to be the largest automotive donor to the Leukemia
Damn.
and Lymphoma Society.
And you had a buff on that one too, didn't you? Oh no.
Eventually, people are going to find out that you're super fan.
Yeah, you make good on it though.
Hey, loser. You're a loser.
I tell you, since you blew it already, right? Try the 150. You think about it, it's expensive the first time, but if you don't pass it, reset's only $100. It's like buying another 25K. You know what I mean? Yeah, reactivation. I think the target, we got 6,000 just to pass, but when you get funded, you just need over 4,000 to start cashing out.
For you, for me.
Your size to my size.
Let me check. Because I know a lot of those people that's milking it are doing a 150 GPT. Yeah.
Is going to begin trading today. This after price of IPO was above the expected range.
Yeah, to cash out, I believe. Let me ask him, because I haven't tried a 150 yet.
So we talked about its path to the public markets. The online banking firm was once valued as high as $25 billion. That was in the private markets back in 2021 around a
Yeah, I remember seeing it's 4,000. I remember seeing it. And I know passing is... What's passing? Oh, no, 9,000 to pass.
The interesting thing
The
about
eval.
is
Yeah, 4,500. I was right.
that our members do is on
So it's actually good. Hit 4,500, you have a big buffer and just cash out.
paying utility bills. We're not as subject to the ups and downs of a credit cycle because we're primarily a payments business.
No, it's up to you,
business.
Gambit.
And so I think that's really unique about the model. And
even in past corrections and COVID and so forth, we actually saw that.
Just the eval is hard to pass because it's 9,000, but once you pass, it's good to milk them.
Product where people can take up to at least $200 and they don't have to pay fees. That's right. Is there a risk there though?
Yeah.
There's always a risk when you're doing some amount of short-term credit extension, but think
15. You're just trying to run it up. You don't want to blow that one because the resets for that's like $1,500.
At any point in time over the pay cycle. These credit extensions we do pay back to us in very short periods of time. Our spot
9,000 divided by 5.
The MyPay product pays
Yeah,
back.
your math is shit.
We really have our hands on the dial.
So $1,800 a day. That's all you gotta make.
It's not in any way intensive. This is the way.
Or you want to do just 2 days and then try to flip everything else, right? So you just make 4,500. 4,500 for 2 days and then just flip.
Order filled.
I think it's short.
They'll say, you know what, we're gonna start to try to
Order
compete here
submitted.
for fees. Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
did try
not.
a few times and then pulled back, but I think I would direct you to.
I did not want to short anymore. Fuck.
It came out just 2 months ago, and there was a passage in there where Jamie wrote that for low balance accounts at Chase, which make up the majority
I'm putting in the wrong
of our
code.
accounts,
I know a lot of people putting in the wrong code.
exceed the profit that we earn from them. He said something along those lines.
Yeah, Uncle Bugatti. Whoever the scammer was got a lot of money.
Full respect for Jamie Dimon. I think Jamie's saying out loud what a lot of other banks
Order
filled.
Yeah, I took my profit.
They're way more focused on serving the needs
I
of
think it's $265. Damn it.
and that's why you continue to see, innovations in the area of private client, wealth services.
I said invest at one time.
Super prime credit cards with travel.
And if you fail, I'll pay for your reset. How about that?
We're focused on the everyday consumer.
Deal.
and the needs
But
that
don't lie to
matter
me.
them.
I know where you live.
Not trying to disparage the bankers. They're making.
I'm like, I can drive to your house. You know that.
focusing their product innovation efforts.
Yeah, just get it. I'll pay for your reset. Just get it. You might like it. You can actually milk more.
Reliance on branch infrastructure and the physical acquisition and service delivery model, the mathematics just don't work. It's not a profitable segment. For us, we can.
Who got it?
Transaction
Lynn
margins
did the
in this
150
huge segment
and
of America.
she passed. I think she's on a pro. Let me ask her.
Help them make progress in their financial lives. And
How many employees do you have?
1,400.
14.
Yeah, 1,450.
And you're going to be a public company, and I think it's 25.9
She's
million
killing
shares are
it.
being sold by the company, so you're raising that money, another 6 million or so by existing stockholders. What are you going to do with that money? I mean, it's going to enable you to do what? Hire more people, more infrastructure?
Honestly, we didn't have any capital constraints, so we think that going public was just a natural step in our evolution as a leader in our category and as a consumer brand. We're really excited about becoming an even more well-known company. We will be raising some money. We'll be using a good portion of those proceeds to pay the taxes on the double trigger RSUs for
There we go. Keep dropping, baby.
that will
Get me out of here. There we go.
Order
Yeah,
filled.
I'm out everything now. I showed at 925,
proceeds will go.
so I'm flat.
And the rest will be, we think having about $1 billion of cash makes sense for a
So
company.
a lot of it is it's kind of a marketing exercise.
It's a little bit of a marketing exercise, yeah, but
I mean, we'll be talking about it on CNBC. You're right here. I mean,
Dang,
it's
see?
yes, but
400 away from
is
safety
there
net.
something else in terms of the audience or your addressable audience that they care when you're a public company?
I think, as a company that is really a digital first company, anything you can
That's
do.
what you gotta do. You gotta do a
physical
TPT.
world is goodness.
Right.
And our aspiration is to be a generational brand that sets a new standard in banking. And of course, we need to be a public company in order to do that. And it obviously opens up lots of opportunities in the area of M&A and growth and just general
Well,
corporate
you'll be able,
flexibility.
yes, of course, you'll be able to use a currency if
Yeah.
you choose to. Are
We've
there
had shareholders. We've had shareholders for 12 years.
I
And we've got employees that
thought you might go public at a different time. I mean, you had a valuation
Long?
far above at least what we're going to see in the open tomorrow.
I don't know, man.
Company
3
is
minutes
up
looks
on the
bad.
markets is valued close to 25.
Hey, let me show you what I see. It's at the top on my oscillator.
2021. Obviously, that was a different point in time. It's grown substantially since
It's like if
then,
it pump
and now
again, I'm
it's
gonna
around
short it,
so,
but it don't
you know,
look good
the
for
price of
long.
stock fluctuates.
But what do I
think for
know?
us,
I mean,
we're
15
really
minutes still
more
looks good
focused on
for the long.
assessing the
If we
needs of
drop
the
more, I might
consumer,
long.
doing a better job of banking them in this driven business model that we
Nice.
have,
Get
which
that
is
money
so
back.
different than the way
traditional banks go to market. And what about you? You've been at it for a while. I did note, and this is, you know, compared to your customer base or most people,
I need to work on my
5% or so after
CPT.
the
I'm near payout too. I need what, 400?
It's not that
500?
compared to a lot of founders. How did you get to such a low number, and does it incent you
Yeah, it
enough
pumps
to want
again.
to continue?
Let me put in the short at 930.
Regrets on the
Order
time that I've
submitted.
taken. I've got a co-founder, and we have been a private company for some period of time, and I have more than enough motivation. I don't even need financial motivation to continue. This is professionally, this is my life's mission.
And he has an interesting backstory as well, which we went into to some extent also, in
I
terms of
don't-
why he sort of focused on this particular cohort. I think we are starting to get some indications, perhaps 42 I'm hearing, so we'll keep an eye on it. Price at 27.
I like that question.
I mean, I hope we hit 2200, but I don't think we might today.
5% is not insignificant, but we know a lot of founders who obviously have a much larger percentage stake. Certainly, we can remember back in the heady days of IPOs, we'll be looking at the cap tables and saying, oh my God, this person's now a billionaire. Not going to be the case here. By the way, though, he and his co-founder have voting control, which we also often now see, of course, as a prerequisite almost in terms of many of these companies.
One thing I was just going deep on that S1,
I
since
think
you
my
mentioned it,
930
and
is
it's come
gonna
up in your
hit.
conversation as well, is just the different demographic makeup and profile of the Chime customer versus the bank customers, the less than 100,000 income, 36 and a half years old is the average age, and 55% women.
Yeah, and a lot paycheck to paycheck, which does, you would think, introduce some risk, but at the same time, he sees real opportunity there. And again, it's the interchange fees from using their card. They want to get the direct deposit relationship. That's how they sort of get you to be a part of their ecosystem.
And they're on the Mavericks casino.
Yeah, they're on the Mavericks. That's right.
Maybe they'll use the money for more stuff like
Well, it's $10 million a year, I believe. I think they're very happy with that as well. Obviously, Mavericks have the #1 draft choice.
At 925 level.
As well.
All right, well, we'll see how that stock opens. Chime set for our IPO today. Still ahead, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang making fresh comments to CNBC about competing with China as the stock ticks higher toward record levels right now. Has been warning about restricting access to that market straight ahead. And then speaking of China, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is back from trade negotiations with China in London, testifying for a second day on Capitol Hill.
Let me see the
Senate
SQQ. Hold on.
We've got some highlights. Let's walk on the street.
So TQQ, looks like it might go back. SQQ might go back down, so NQ might still go up later. My puts is red now. It's up $60 earlier on my SPY puts.
AI, quantum computing, electric vehicles, cryptocurrencies, or robotics.
Oh, you didn't take profit?
Technology is expected to become roughly 10 times bigger than
I told you to.
technologies combined. The World Economic Forum
When does it
says
expire?
arguably the most exciting human discovery since fire.
You're fucked,
Hi,
dude.
my name is Whitney Tilson. I'm a former hedge fund manager. I've been featured in virtually
Yeah, but
every single
like,
major financial
if you look at the
publication and
charts,
TV show. Now,
it looks like it's gonna dip.
what could be the biggest story of my career. One market insider predicts that
Let
this
me check real
technology
quick. Hold on.
could be even more important than the Industrial Revolution. And I want to give you, free of charge, the name and ticker symbol of the company at the center of this technology. Simply visit the website on your screen to secure your free recommendation now.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. It's SPY on the 30-minute looks like it's going up. Let me see the daily. Yeah, daily looks good too. Daily still good. But this next week though, you don't have enough time.
Dispense a non-corrosive cleaning solution into your drain pan that breaks up and flushes the bacteria out of your
Oh no, I looked at the wrong. No, I looked at the wrong chart.
These fine retailers or learn more at iFlow.com.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Text AMBC to 710 to learn more.
Yeah, and the daily is at the top for when I'm looking at my SPY. The Oscar is at the top. Let me show you. Hey, who's this? What's up, homie? What's up, cuz? That's Spy. You see it? Damn it. So it don't look good. It's on the 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes going down, so I think we're gonna drop later. We're gonna rug pull before the weekend. Yeah.
It's useful information. So I thought weekdays 6 a.m. Eastern and streaming on CNBC Plus.
Welcome back. Stocks flying back. Some early losses. We're positive now on the S&P and on the NASDAQ. A little more than 0.1%. Producer prices. That was the big economic report of the morning. Coming in lower than expected. More evidence of benign inflation. And now we have a better sense of what this week's data is going to mean for the Fed.
I think NQ is about to drop in a little bit. I'm gonna move my short down to 925 again.
Submitted.
I do. On the 3 minutes, it's looking like it's topping out. But don't follow me.
Prices were well under control, up just 0.1 on the headline and 0.1 for core, both better than expectations. That followed a tame consumer price report yesterday. Not surprisingly, both reports lead to an expectation of a very modest increase in that PCE price index, the Fed's preferred indicator we get at the end of the month. I'm seeing estimates ranging from 0.1 on the low side to just 0.2 on the high side. That's going to be all right for now, but it's still unlikely to be fully confident in the inflation outlook. B of A saying overall, the number it's a good number for the Fed, but it's hard to take too much signal given the uncertainty tariffs pose around the inflation path. Okay, here's the tariff mystery. Is it absorbed by profits by exporters, wholesalers, or retailers? Is it offset by price declines in other goods because of economic weakness? We saw airline fares decline. Or are these price increases still to come? There was a little pressure on the intermediate goods as well. Markets
Order filled. That's my short.
With a roughly 78-79% probability of cuts in September and December. That's up 20 points over the past 2 days. But note the probabilities remain low for July.
925.
The consensus is that the inflation numbers are good.
Order submitted.
920, I'll be out.
It's going to wait a couple meetings to be sure, Sarah.
No biggie.
Yes, like we said earlier, they're waiting for Godot a little bit. I learned today from my theater friend Carl. It's not Godot. On the tariff.
Order filled. And there we go. Took my money.
Never came. But that's the accurate way.
That's how Beckham started.
Steve, thank you.
I don't need to check the commission.
Former Fed Chair Janet Yellen joining us on Money Movers to talk about the inflation outlook and a lot
I'm
more.
increasing the
But first,
size.
CNBC News update. Leslie Picker has
Order
it. Morning,
submitted.
Leslie.
Hey, Sarah, in a major escalation, the Iranian government today announcing it would open a third uranium enrichment site as the White House is trying to negotiate a nuclear deal with Tehran. The move also comes after the UN Atomic Agency watchdog censured Iran, saying it has failed to comply with its nuclear non-proliferation.
It's going to. It's just staying on the top on the 3 minutes, so it's gonna go down.
With the help of most of his ultra-Orthodox coalition partners. They joined him in voting against a bill that would have forced the ultra-Orthodox to register for military service in times of war, which they had vehemently argued against. And President Trump is expected to sign today several bills passed by Congress last month, including resolutions blocking California's plan to phase out gas-powered cars by 2035. That's according to a White House official who also says the president will end the rules that phase out the sale of heavy-duty diesel vehicles and cut tailpipe
Oh,
emissions.
is it rollover for NQ? Oh, it is.
Excellent. We'll talk about the president's plan to kill
We got the road of contracts on NQ.
with former Tesla president, current GM board member John McNeil. Also happening right now.
Yeah, on Ninja Trader it does it for you, but on my trade station it doesn't, so.
We'll bring you the highlights as we get them as the S&P climbs further into the green.
So right now we're on NQM25. So we gotta roll to the next contract, which is, let me look at my book.
Our distinctive investing approach
I have a book on this.
results. All you have to do to activate this potential energy is activate us. Capital Group Fixed Income, actively different.
I am Tony Hawk, and like many of you, I take a stand
So
against
after,
cholesterol.
what
Instead,
is
it's
it,
come up with
Q?
complete CoQ10.
No, M.
That's why
After
my
M
vitamin
is
Q.
N.
Order filled.
No, no, you're right. No, 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 I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm looking at gold. My bad.
Q, the brand I trust.
Yeah, U. Yeah, it's gonna be NQU 25 trade station. Yeah, like that.
We compete with AI-powered indoor cameras that alert live agents of an intruder.
Stop.
Yeah, Top Step and Ninja Trader and Tradeovate does it for you.
There's no safe one, simply safe.
She's cleaning the shower. They're cleaning the shower. Doesn't look like it, right? Wet and Forget Shower does all the work for you. Wet and Forget is the once-a-week shower cleaner that lets you go live life. Rinsing, forget it. Scrubbing, forget it. There's a reason Wet and Forget Shower has over 40,000 five-star reviews.
Yeah, I'm stuck at 926 short.
Amazing once-a-week spray that goes to work on fun.
Yeah, it's fine though.
That's what matters most. Your free time.
I need to
Don't forget to get yours at
touch
Target,
these
Walmart,
Apex.
and Lowe's.
I guess I'm not the easiest person to please. I like things just right. That's why I love Redfin's home recommendations.
Where we at?
They know what I want even before I do. A home that's just right.
Yeah, I'm gonna short on the Apex.
Yeah.
With the 945.
Order submitted.
Short this. Short this. I need to start trading. It's getting boring. Yeah. And bot's still long since 823, so bot's up a lot. Yeah. Well, no, it was never red. It was never red when it went long. It long after the news. Yeah, so it never went down to red at all. It went like lowest after the pump was like 926. That's when I started. Oh, I'm sorry, 820. Hold on, I see the thing. 823 when it's long, and I was long in at 826 in and out. Well, a lot of time, but it never went red.
President Trump is expected to sign a resolution this morning blocking California's plan to phase out gas-powered cars by 2035. This comes as GM is investing $4 billion in U.S. production in response to tariffs on imported vehicles and auto parts. John McNeil joins us now to discuss all of it. He's the CEO of DBX Ventures, former Tesla president, and current General Motors board member. It's good to have you, John. The order on California, we knew this was coming. How big of a deal is it for the automakers?
Hi, Sarah. It's a pretty big deal, and it's something for investors definitely to pay attention to. I think, what they're doing is they're repealing California's what's called a waiver, where California gets to set their own emission standards and their own targets for EVs.
Oh, my short about to hit on my funded ones.
17 states.
Order filled.
There we go.
And so
Order
it has implications beyond California.
Quick
But the
in
big-
and out, in and out.
Order filled is that California got way ahead of the EV demand and manufacturers were going to be forced to pay fines and buy credits to make up for any deficit in that demand. And what we're going to see now is
I took profit on one account, but the bigger size, I'm still holding it.
Credits that car makers have had to buy to be compliant. That market is now going to go away. So you're going to see a much more rapid growth of EVs. And I think specifically for Tesla investors, there's something to keep an eye on, because more than 100% of Tesla's profits in the first quarter came from selling EV credits. That's going to be a material impact on Tesla's bottom line for sure.
Does it change anything about the strategy or direction of a company like a GM?
Order submitted.
I think, we're on
Oh, I didn't touch my
giving the consumer the drivetrain they want, whether that's an electric drivetrain or a gas drivetrain, and putting really good cars out into the market, and letting the consumers
Order submitted.
And so on both sides of that aisle, like GM's having a very good first half of the year so far. They're leading in SUVs, they're leading in pickups, and they've just become the number 2 player in the EV market. So they're playing both sides of the propulsion market really, really well.
Drop it, baby.
I think the implication here is that although GM may have been a net credit provider to the market, that's not the business we're in. We're not in the business of manufacturing credits for ourselves and getting paid for those. We're in the business of manufacturing cars. And so I think for GM, this is a good step towards a much more rational market.
John, what do you think's on the line for the Austin event for Tesla? A lot of reports sort of leaking out about what the city is willing to disclose in the way of what role human caretakers will play, and there's pieces out of Wired about Model Y sort of circling the safety.
What's on?
How do they sort of communicate a message of growth, but also do no harm?
I think that's really the heart of the question, Carl. And I'm glad to see Tesla leaning towards safety and do no harm, because these technologies need to win over not only the public but the regulators, and you do that with the safest product that you can have. And so I'm glad to see Tesla being conservative here. You know, they announced that that over the next few days, rather than launching robotaxis, they're going to delay that launch and make sure that they're really, really ready on the routes that they plan. And I think having human operators in the background isn't a bug; it's actually a feature.
Order, Bill.
I think for too long.
Order submitted.
But as a passenger in these cars, I like to know that there's a human
Order
that can help the
submitted.
car get out of a jam. And
Order
although this
canceled.
technology is not perfect, so having human operators in the background is a good thing. I think not a bad thing. It's a feature, not a bug.
Order
Yeah, I wonder on that as well, though, John, in terms of, when I was talking to Musk recently, he did not make a great deal of the sort of the infrastructure that will be necessary
Order
to
submitted.
really power a fleet of autonomous vehicles. You seem to think otherwise in terms of at least what the operational infrastructure is going to look like or needs to look like.
Yeah, I think it's, if you replace the driver in rideshare, you're
There we
replacing not
go.
only the driver of the car, but you're replacing everything that driver does. That driver maintains the car, they clean the car, they fuel the car, they insure the car. And so there's a lot to that. Like if I put my car onto a robotaxi
Well, I've been
now,
shorting. 47.
there needs to be an
That's
answer.
why I'll keep shorting. 46, 47. I think it's taking 5 points.
Sick of the back of that car. And it needs to be cleaned up for the next passenger. That's one simple thing. But if the car breaks down, that's quite another thing. And so there is a ton of infrastructure that's already been built up around Waymo's operations in the cities they're in that Tesla's going to have to build up as well.
And John, finally, real quick on GM, you talked a bit about the. What is the board seeing in terms of the challenges, or what is management communicating with you to the extent you can share about around tariffs? And sort of, do you feel like you've got a roadmap at this point in terms of what it's going to mean for the company?
Tariffs introduced a lot of uncertainty, as you know, David, into the entire market, but certainly into the car manufacturer's world. We've kind of emerged.
Dude, I got some good food.
The GM have done incredible work over the last few months to really kind of optimize our footprint. And we announced yesterday
I'm gonna take a picture of this.
a major investment of $4 billion into U.S. manufacturing in our facilities in Michigan, in Kansas City, in Tennessee, where we're bringing over 2 million units of production back to the U.S. So I do feel like the GM team has a roadmap now. But we're going to depend on some stability.
Are you done trading?
Capital decisions of 3 to 4 years, and the car manufacturers just
Are you done trading?
have policymakers changing policy, more often than that, because we've got these long-term decisions we're making, and if we get stability, then American manufacturing could compete. If we don't have,
Let me start that giveaway now.
Order
filled. Come on.
and that is something
I think we should.
policymakers are intending.
Order
All right,
submitted.
John. Well, thank you for weighing in on all of it. I really appreciate it. John McNeil is
Order
GM.
Order filled. I don't
Good
know.
job. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Treasury Secretary testified before Senate Finance this morning. Got some new tales from that hearing coming up in a moment as the Dow joins the S&P in the green.
Smarter threats needed smarter protection.
Chatbot.
CrowdStrike Charlotte AI is
One.
delivering the future of cybersecurity.
Cloudbox.
What's now and what's next? Built on the
Giveaway.
intelligence of every breach we stop and refined by human expertise, Charlotte AI gets smarter. Your business stays safe. So you can build tomorrow
Hideous.
with confidence and efficiency.
Edit.
And
Let's
protect
just
what matters
do
most.
20
That's why the
minutes.
businesses you trust
Confirm.
CrowdStrike.
Start.
We stop breaches.
My husband Dean always worried that his diabetes would keep him from
Let me
enjoying
post on
retirement.
Discord so people
G7
know.
has made it easy for Dean to manage his sugar levels and spend more time in training. We're feeling good about the future, wherever it takes us.
What if you could invest in a future where skin cancer treatment is non-invasive and relatively painless? Medicus Pharma's groundbreaking solution delivers chemotherapy directly to the tumor site, offering a mostly painless alternative to invasive surgeries. With the skin cancer treatment market expected to exceed $20 billion by 2030, Medicus is poised to meet the demand for cost-effective, non-surgical options. Now advancing phase 2 studies. Medicus Pharma, leading the charge in skin cancer innovation.
Life is always changing, and their Lovesac couch adapts
Order
to it all.
submitted.
Gathering around for game day one moment, reconfiguring
Order
for
filled.
entertaining the next.
Order
And tomorrow,
submitted.
a new look entirely. Because Lovesac adapts to life, our life.
Is this your dream of retirement? How about this sweet deal? I like fishing. Or is this a little more your style? Retiring well isn't a guarantee, it's a goal. It's easy when markets are going up. But what about when they're not? That's why you need this.
Call for Fisher's Retirement Survival Kit, featuring your guide to surviving market volatility, our stock market outlook, plus the Fisher Investments Difference. 3 indispensable guides, yours free for calling 1-800-213-5317.
Fisher Investments' disciplined approach will help see you through the market's ups and downs and give you the confidence you need to reach a comfortable retirement. And our fees are structured.
You joining up?
We do better when our clients do better. Call now for your free retirement survival kit. 1-800-213-5317. See if your dream retirement is on track.
If your
No, you got 10 points.
or more, call Fisher today. Call 1-800-213-5317.
It's a moment. One of the people who I've respected over the years, Kieran and Rich Santelli, this just came out. And
This whole time I thought I was on Discord. I thought I was on Discord. I was like, how come you're not talking? It's like, are you gonna join up? You have 10 points on the. No, I didn't know my Discord voice.
Order filled.
Yeah. Well, you should join up. Videos. You got, yeah, on YouTube.
Order filled.
You got the points.
Testing moment here between the Treasury Secretary and the ranking Democrat on the committee, Ron Wyden, over the
Oh yeah, I forgot. It's Bonox, this one you use. Yeah, yeah. My bad.
American consumers paying those costs. Here's how that moment.
Order canceled.
You are cherry
Is it?
picking
I don't think so.
because Walmart makes decisions based on their
Oh, I didn't change the advertising.
retailers. And this is not an advertisement for them.
I'll change it later.
Have chosen not to
I'll change
pass
it
on
tomorrow.
tariffs.
Stream's about to be over. Bonox is 83% only. I'm telling you, I think Apex owned them.
There is no
Mhm.
inflation today.
80%, I think so. That was Gambit. He took a shit.
6 hours on
Gone for a long time.
We'll see how long this one goes today.
I think it was mentioned at the top of the hour, transformation syndrome. Actually, Neil Dutta from Renaissance Macro, but I love that. Love that he's
We'll
using it.
have
Thank
to
you.
do the etymology and find out who actually coined that one.
Right. I'm going to give Neil the credit. Thank you, Eamon Jabbers. Oracle.
You
is
almost
terrific
green now?
this morning. Look at
Nice.
this move after last night's
Good
results.
shit.
Stock up more than 13.5%, pushing a record.
Almost,
highs. We'll
though,
discuss
so that's
that
still good.
Investors keep more of what they earn. What's ahead?
Goldilocks needs a place of her own, and fast. Thankfully, she's on Redfin. They update their listings every 2 minutes. And with so many options, she's bound to find exactly what she wants.
This one's just right.
She thinks.
Okay, a little more on
Luxury
8
isn't just comfort. It's consciousness.
Ah, that short was nice.
Craftsmanship. It's choosing better. Inspired by the beauty of our planet, we design for the dreamers.
It's mostly from last night.
Thoughtfully placed to elevate your sleep.
Yeah.
Crafted for the way you rest. Made with the finest natural and organic materials.
Last night was actually better.
Meticulously crafted. Because true luxury
Order
isn't just
submitted.
how it feels. It's how it's made.
What's that?
Discover our full line of luxury mattresses at avocadomattress.com.
Uh-huh.
The road to opportunity
Uh-huh.
is often the road overlooked.
Wow.
Enterprise mobility. We guide companies
Wait, you can do news on XFA? Oh, I didn't know that. What, so you can do CPI too on Top Step? The X. Wow. Oh yeah, you did.
Insights, information, and all of the details.
But you can't hedge it though.
The average dog lives to 10. That's 10 birthdays. First summer swims.
Yeah.
At the farmer's dog.
No way, don't know.
That's why our freshly made food comes pre-portioned just for your dog. Because the dog
What did you bring?
What? You should just taken 1,000 right away.
A bit of local art. A soulmate for the week. Finding out you love a good concept. And glamping. And that durian is everything they say it is. Everywhere you go with Marriott Bonvoy shapes you, making you the greatest souvenir of all. Explore our entire world of hotel brands and experience.
All right, keep an eye on companies who obviously have a main product being software, chips, AI related.
Oh, you just woke up, ISIS.
Set for higher overall. That's a record level after the company reported earnings and said some very positive things about CapEx and data centers. Christina Burns says she's got more on what's getting this going.
They delivered for Q4, and numbers that should really just make the most skeptical investors pay attention. Why you're seeing the stock just up double digits today. I can go through the numbers. 41% RPO growth, which is just pretty much backlog to 138 billion. You have cloud infrastructure revenue, which is really important for them, jumping 52%, and then guidance over 70%. The biggest stat, though, was the 100% growth of backlog that they're expecting for fiscal 2026.
It's just Phidias giveaways on YouTube. You want to join up?
Interestingly enough, Stargate, the
did.
$500 billion AI infrastructure project that's supposed to reshape American AI dominance, quote, contributed.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, they're gonna have a new payout thing too, so it won't be just rides. I think it might be something else too.
Demand as, quote, astronomical, even more striking. Why? Because Oracle's already delivering pretty exceptional growth that we saw in Q4 on pure market demand, making any Stargate upside additional fuel for their growth trajectory. Also to note, Oracle said they had no issues getting a GPU supply. We know that NVIDIA talks about that. Oracle's just another large company saying they're able to get their hands on all of those chips. Both Mizuho and Jefferies say that investors have been moving away, though, from Adobe, Salesforce, as well as Workday into Oracle, which is why you did see a little bit of a run-up into the stock, into the print. And you can see also, just we're going to show you the IGV ETF. It's also a good barometer to compare the basket of software stocks and how they're doing compared to Oracle. And you can really see the divergence just over year to date. We'll have both up there in a second, but 1 year, 29% Oracle doing much better.
I think
What are you long at?
It's recovered fully from any sort of.
I'm trying to short.
It's always interesting. Ellison is up $29 billion.
Fuck the bot. I'm shorting at 45.
40+% of this company, 1.4 billion shares.
It's always interesting when we can talk about how wealthy people get.
Well, I mean, the numbers are just so staggering. Sometimes you can forget. $228 billion is his ownership stake in Oracle. That's what it's valued at today. Given that incredible move.
Due to 30 seconds, that's what.
Exactly. His comments, he said that he had never, and I'm paraphrasing right now, that he had never seen such demand. And I think that those comments, along with Safra Katz's comments on the call, really spoke to what's to come in the upcoming year, not necessarily just how they did this past quarter.
Stream is
Which I think
way
could have
over.
been a little bit
doing that others, like what are
Short.
they doing right
At
that's driving the
48.
demand more than
Orders submitted.
so the hyperscalers aren't seeing growth like these kind of double digits.
Great question. I think, well, one, the relationship that they maintain with NVIDIA, so they're able to move forward with that.
Yep.
Two,
I know
perhaps,
what it
they got
is.
like a foothold with the Stargate thing in the United States and the UAE much faster than everyone else. And I don't know why they were picked.
Well, it's
over the
long,
other
but I
hyperscalers.
just like to
So
short.
That's a great question, which I don't seem to have an answer to.
Meantime, we'll get Adobe earnings tonight.
No, it's been long. It's been long since yeah, this morning long. At 7:39, so 8:39. After open was long.
Real-time exchange sector sort is sponsored by Sector Spider.
Yeah, you were holding that long. I was shorting, and it was fun shorting last night. Keep dumping. It's a drop.
Zipbound memes changed. For adults,
You're out of your long, right? You're not holding it, right? Okay, good. Looks like it's gonna drop. What's up, BB?
it's almost over 58 pounds.
Congrats.
It's changing what I believe is possible.
Yeah,
Don't
thank
take
you.
it for allergic to it, or if you or someone in your family had
My son ain't got me shit.
Tell your doctor if you get a lump or swelling in your neck. Stop that and call your doctor if you have severe stomach pain or serious
My sister-in-law moved here, so we gotta go buy furniture for her.
Tell your
Some
doctor if you experience vision
more
changes
money spending, yeah.
before scheduling procedures with anesthesia. If you're nursing, pregnant, plan to be, or taking birth control pills, taking Zepbound
going
with
short?
normal urea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Side effects
Hold
include
on, let me
diarrhea and vomiting,
let me
which
join you.
can
I like the short too.
kidney problems.
Oh, wait, no, ma. Yeah, yeah.
Change.
Savings options for
Yeah, let me lower my short. I put 36.
submitted.
Go back 36 off short. I still have the other one I'm holding.
No insurance coverage? Get the Zepbound 2.5 milligram vial for $3.49 a month. Discover the
Yeah, I think it's getting weak.
Go to saveonzepbound.com. Ask your healthcare provider about Zepbound. Explore savings options today.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses, I needed a website. And GoDaddy Hero uses AI to make a beautiful website so fast it'll blow my customers' noggins while they're shopping for goggins for their noggins.
Uh-oh.
I guess I'm not the easiest person to please. I like things just right. That's why I love
So
Redmond's
I need
home renovations. They know what I
$150
want
more to
even
get
before
a
I do.
payout.
A home that's just right.
Yes.
Order filled.
Order filled. It's more personalized, more accessible, and much lower cost. This IPO is an important moment, but it is
Oh, I didn't see the time.
beginning of our story.
Order submitted.
Ah, I should left my short at 48. Okay. Yeah. I'll go back down. Your short should be good. I'm still holding it.
Good morning again. Welcome to Money Movers. I'm Sarah Eisen with Carl Quintanilla, live from Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Today, former Treasury Secretary and former Fed Chair Janet Yellen joins us exclusively. We're going to discuss everything from the latest inflation data to Trump's ever-shifting trade policies and how it could all influence the Fed next
I
week.
still think it's going to drop. Just give it time. Give it about 5 more
Meantime,
minutes.
markets this morning started in the red, but managed to climb their way out. S&P's up almost 15. Dow sort of flirting with gains right now. Breadth was negative for much of the morning, but has flipped a little positive. Obviously, a pretty favorable backdrop in the wake of that tame PPI number as the 10-year close to session low is 4.38.
We're going to start with the breaking news, though, out of India and that crash of an Air India passenger plane bound for London. The aircraft was a Boeing 787 Dreamliner. A spokesperson for the airline saying the jet was carrying
Oh, is Air India that crashed today? I didn't know
including
that.
12 crew members. Let's get right to our Billabo.
The airplane crashed from Boeing was Air India.
Sarah, still trying to figure out exactly what happened
Yeah.
in those minutes.
That's why BA stocks was down. It was down 7%. It's only 5% now.
787 Dreamliner. The footage shows
Fucking Boeing,
big
dude.
plumes of black smoke, as you would expect when you have a Dreamliner that
Wow.
is loaded with
Order
fuel to London.
Shit.
But
Holy shit,
the
my
interesting thing is that there are
my short
reports
just
that there may
hit
be survivors from this.
funding.
We have not
Oh my
confirmed
god.
it, but some of these reports are out there swirling around.
Sam.
Which would be miraculous given the scene
Was
and
that
the video
news?
that we've seen so far. It did
Order
crash shortly after
submitted.
takeoff. Questions right now surrounding the aircraft. How old was it?
Yeah, that
How
don't look good
much
for
use had it gone through? 11 and a half years old, 41,700 flight hours.
Order
So
submitted.
this
I'm
is
just
a
gonna.
not young
I'm in a
aircraft,
short. I'm
but
stuck in a
average
short.
age. I'd say middle age if you look at a commercial aircraft. 7,800 takeoffs and landings. So it had a lot of cycles under its belt. For Boeing,
Let me check
this
the 3
may
minutes.
potentially raise fresh questions about the integrity of the aircraft that it's building.
It's coming back
Depends on
down,
what the
don't worry.
investigation comes up with and what the cause ultimately is determined to be. They are, remember, in the process of increasing their Dreamliner production rate up to 5 per
Oh,
month. They
because
also do
top
plan
ones, right?
rate increases for the 737 MAX. Does this crash investigation perhaps prompt the FAA to
Damn, it's
go a
still
little
going.
slower in terms of those
Oh.
potential production increases, and then also take a
I don't
look
think it's gonna hit
sure that
22K
DK
again.
Aerospace, it manufactured the 2 engines that powered the Air India plane that crashed, GENX-1B. It is highly regarded within the industry in terms of its reliability. It does not have a spotty track record. Nonetheless, there will be a lot of questions about whether or not the engines were functioning properly before this crash took place. Guys, back to you.
We don't like to speculate, Phil, although the street is starting to blend in some notes. Wolf this morning talks about the video where it got to about 600 feet of altitude before this apparent loss of power. And they are pointing to
Order
given
submitted.
the independence, the relative independence of the engines, that there aren't that many dual mode failure scenarios. Bird strikes, they argue, would be one of them.
It would be possible. That would be highly, highly unusual to have both engines
come
go
back
out with
I'm
a
not scared
strike
yet.
at the same time. Not impossible, but really, really low odds of happening. I've been reading these notes as well, Carl. You know, we're in this mode here where people are going to speculate. There's some grainy footage where people are asking about the flaps on the wings. Were they in the right position? You can't tell from a lot of these. Some of the footage I've seen, you cannot make a discernible conclusion about the state of the aircraft before the crash. Nonetheless, that is the times that we live in, where people are going to speculate based on the littlest of information.
Yeah, as we await NTSB on their way to help with operations on the ground. Phil, I'm glad we had you in front of a camera today, albeit on the remote. Phil LeBeau joining us talking some Boeing. Boeing, of course, is weighing on the broader markets, as is the latest read on inflation and the president threatening some of these new universal tariffs. Goldman, though, this morning does lower its 12-month recession forecast back to 30%. And joining us this morning, Goldman Sachs senior U.S. portfolio strategist Ben Snyder's with us at Post 9. Ben, good morning.
Oh, the squeeze is almost gone. There's only 2 more left. Okay.
You bring down your peak jobless rate and you boost GDP a touch for the full year, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that we're past the worst of tariff uncertainty. And that's true both in terms of how it
We
looks like the
got
rate itself will
2 minutes left.
but maybe more importantly, the impact of that uncertainty on corporates and on consumers. Right? We've seen over the last few
On the
weeks
giveaway.
higher consumer confidence readings. We saw just this week higher small business confidence as well. And that all suggests that the impact of tariffs on growth will probably be a little bit less negative than we expected.
I'm still holding my short.
There is some residual worry that because some of these rare earth licenses,
Yeah, I'm still
from
holding it.
China, are short term. They're like 6-month licenses. That there's the possibility we're back here in half a year talking about this again. Is that how likely is that, do you think?
I think the bigger issue, of course, is that we still expect a pretty substantial slowdown in economic activity and earnings growth over the next few quarters. It looks like the market is pricing to us something close to trend, which, to be fair, is in line with our forecast for late 2026. And I think it's one thing to say we're going to look through this slowdown before you've actually seen the impact of the tariffs on economic activity. I think it's another thing when the rubber hits the road and we actually see earnings decelerate. Might be a little bit hard for investors to maintain that confidence.
So do you think the market has room to broaden out more?
Our base case is for a pretty flat market over the next few months as we do see tariffs flow eventually into inflation and earnings growth data. But ultimately, if you look at the end of the year, or you look at our 12-month forecast, we have substantial upside. Our 12-month S&P 500 forecast is for 6,500. I think that reflects continued earnings growth
broadening earnings growth and higher prices.
What kind of growth rates, GDP, do you need to see that?
So our forecast for the second half of this year is sub 1% real on an annualized rate. But like I said, by the end of next year, we're back at trend. And similarly, we just saw in the first quarter, S&P 500 companies grow earnings by about 13% year over year. If you look at the second quarter, analysts have that growth rate slowing to 4%. That's a huge deceleration.
Oh, you deep
By the
red?
middle of next year, you should be back close to the high single digits.
Does dollar weakness give that a tailwind? How much?
Dollar weakness is a tailwind, but I
Damn,
think it's
sorry, man.
overstate how much of a tailwind. If you look at S&P 500 companies,
Oh, 500. Dang. That's your funded too, right? Shit.
a 10% move in the dollar, which
Sorry,
is
man.
quite a large move, really only boosts earnings by 2%.
Is there? Do you think you're getting more bang for
He'll
your buck
come back
here
tomorrow.
on small and mid
I'm a
caps?
Friday
If we're
still.
holding in a more dovish Fed?
I think the fundamental story, which is that
Later,
interest
buddy.
rates probably aren't going to decline very much, still gives us a structural bias towards larger companies, which tend to have less floating rate debt and stronger balance sheets. That said, I think one of the most
Gambit's
interesting things in the
gone.
market
Okay,
right
let me
now
do this
that no
quick.
one is talking about is the
Good
huge
luck.
increase in short interest over the last few months. Right? After
First
2020,
winner,
we saw a
Smooth. Did
huge
you
amount of
win?
short interest.
I think
It
you
stayed
won
there
the
for a few
Phidias
years,
already.
and really only this year,
Let me
investors
check.
have
I'm
decided
sure
to add
you
shorts
did.
back into the market. And if you look at where those shorts are concentrated, of course, it's largely in what we would call lower quality, smaller companies. And so if the data continue to surprise to the upside, like we've seen over the last few days, I think there's a good probability investors
Actually, you
have to
never
reduce
won.
those hedges, and that leads to some small hedges.
You are lucky today.
Percentage, it's almost 2.5%, which doesn't sound very much. But if you compare that to a market cap of $50 trillion,
Let me send you the code. Hold
that's
on.
a couple $100 billion of shorts that have been added this year.
Ben, appreciate it. Good to see you. Thanks, especially on the heels of the report today. Ben Starr.
Thank you. Still to come this hour, Janet Yellen, her outlook for monetary policy and fiscal, her reaction to the Trump administration's tariff strategy, and what it means for global growth. That is next.
Then fintech company Chime makes a debut over the Nasdaq. They price at 27. Latest indications as we get close to the first trade. When
All right, let me do the $50 now. Let me set that up. I'll make it quick.
Well, hope isn't a good retirement strategy. You've worked for a comfortable retirement for years. Now you need to plan for retirement income. Learn ways to avoid common mistakes, like being too conservative or not setting retirement goals. Have someone on your side to keep you on track. Call for Fisher's Comfortable Retirement Kit with the help you need to make your retirement a success, including the Investor's Guide to a Comfortable Retirement, 13 retirement blunders to avoid, and
No, it's not free activation.
call 1-800-759-4477. Fisher tailors a plan to keep you on track for a retirement you want. And as a fiduciary, we do better when our clients do better. Call now for your comfortable retirement.
Come on, baby.
Call
Drop that shit.
1-800-759-4477. Call us today. You don't have it coming to you unless you plan for it. If your portfolio is $1 million or more, call 1-800-759-4477.
Rather than get rich quick, I believe in get rich slow. The high yield cash account at Public actually had higher rates than anything else I was able to find online. I don't want to be losing sleep over having made risky investments. I needed something stable that could really give me
Order filled. Ooh, nice drop. Got out.
free, and I know I can access
Got
it
saved.
when I need it.
Isis, you get out or you short?
To CNBC.
Dang, you little gangster. I took my money. I'm out.
On-the-go access to global market data, news, and analysis as it happens. Any market, anytime, anywhere with CNBC Plus. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Superman.
Miss Lane.
Recently, you've come under a lot of fire for what's done. It's a lot.
I stopped the war.
I think I'll lose 900 for sure.
Question myself in the same situation as before.
Eyes up here. Let's see. Used to like leather. Right now at Rooms to Go, shop sizzling hot buys. Hot buys on an incredible selection of pieces and packages for every room. Shop great styles, get great value on stunning living room hot buys, amazing bedroom hot buys, and dining room hot buys.
Order submitted.
Plus, get 55-month interest-free financing and great low prices to save you even more. We've turned up the style and turned down the price. So let's go. Don't miss your chance to save big on a great selection of hot buys. Right now at Rooms to Go.
Welcome back. The latest inflation numbers coming in below expectations again, signaling tariffs have yet to show up in the data. That's as President Trump threatens unilateral tariffs on trading partners in the coming weeks. This is all ahead of the Fed decision next week, where another pause is priced in. Joining us now in an exclusive interview is former Treasury Secretary, former Fed Chair, Janet Yellen. Madam Secretary, it's so great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
What the inflation numbers, have they surprised you at how little of an impact there seems to be from tariffs?
Well, I think it will take a little while, another month or two, before we see the impact of tariffs. Firms have built up a lot of inventories in anticipation of the tariff hikes, and they'll probably wait to pass through many of the price increases that are coming. That said, the inflation news has been something of the downside surprise, and has cemented my view that we have been on a path, absent the tariffs, in which inflation is returning to the 2% target.
How much do you think that tariffs are going to move the needle, given the fact that going into this tariffs, it looks like we're seeing some real progress on the inflation front, on services, on shelter, on
Sorry.
the administration that we were worried about. I mean, does that signal that it's not going to be as bad when the tariff impact hits?
Well, that is the good news, is that we were on a downward trend, but the estimates that I've seen, the impact of the tariffs, and of course there remains a huge degree of uncertainty about exactly what is going to go into effect. What will
That's indicators that show gaps.
Trade court decision mean? I would expect inflation on a year-over-year basis this year to shoot up to at least 3% or slightly over because of the tariffs. So I definitely expect that we're going to see
Order submitted.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
And when you think about what the impact is going to be on households, the most recent and optimistic estimate I've seen suggested that the average household will see on the order of $1,000 reduction in income because of the tariffs, the tax, the price hikes that they will cause. And it could be greater than that, depending on how things play out with the tariff program. And, that's one of the key sources of recession risk, is when consumers see those substantial price hikes that they're going to pull back. But some of the worst outcomes that were connected both with the prohibitive tariffs on China and hopefully the reciprocal tariffs that have at least been paused for the moment. Hopefully some of those, the biggest risks, are now diminished. And so I think consumer confidence has increased because of that and the good inflation numbers.
And the market, too, has told us that, Madam Secretary. So even if we do see a tick up in inflation as a result of tariffs, as you expect, there's still a debate about whether it's a sort of one-time increase and whether the Fed should look through it, because it's not monetary inflation. What do you think they should do?
I would say Trump's on TV soon.
Keep a very firm eye on inflation expectations. They need to worry about the possibility of second round effects or wage increases or inflation expectations feeding into continued inflation. But certainly there is a case to be made that this kind of price increases due to tariffs could be one shot given how little we've seen, the fact that the labor market, while we've seen a little bit of softening,
Come on, baby. Drop it down. Let's
basically
go.
in good shape. Inflation's coming down. The fact that it doesn't have
Elon got
a lot
scared.
of any data.
What was it? I think his stocks was down like 16% that one day he was tweeting. Yeah.
Inflation. So I would expect them to
Yeah.
remain firmly in wait and see territory.
Meantime, as we're talking, getting a new report from
Trump don't have
CBO,
that power to do
Secretary
this
looking at the
Tesla.
distributional effects
Does he? Does Trump has the power to delist Tesla from the Nasdaq?
households. The agency estimates that in general, resources would decrease for households
Oh,
toward
yeah.
the
Order filled.
of the income distribution, whereas resources would increase for
Oh,
households
yeah.
in the middle and top. Why would you structure it?
I got out my short. Everything's good. We're done.
Order filled.
Oh man, his short would have. He had such bad luck. His short.
2017 TCJA.
Yeah, it was in a short. I mean, I think at 940.
Penciled in some tax cuts on.
He was right on a short. We just went in too early. Yeah, 1 minute and we'll pick two winners. Hey, you drawing up, right? ISIS? You drawing up the YouTube, right? The $50 giveaway, $25 each? Okay. $25. Yeah, $25 each. Going up, hurry. You got 39 seconds.
The tariffs, the price increases.
Yeah, type Bugatti, hurry. 30 seconds.
Also have their biggest negative
Alright.
effect on income households that spend disproportionately on.
I can't rig this one. It's a robot. Look, we're about to get. Yeah, it's always on. It's always on there. No. This is not the wheel. That's already done. This is the one the Streamlab will pick for you. The real, I can't rig that neither. Other things I can.
Households the most.
I haven't heard about the big ugly bill, only the beautiful bill. But you know,
I'm just joking.
he's doing this before Senate Finance again. That 82% of Americans support a 15% tax cut for working families. They support increasing the child tax credit. 77 support no tax on tips. 74% support no tax.
Damn, I was talking shit about Petite too on YouTube.
They will see a tax increase.
Wait, how you say his name? No, it's not Petite. It's Patak, right?
2017 individual tax cuts, if they were all eliminated, would have some negative impact.
Alright, I'm about to
on
pick now.
the lowest
Good luck,
income
guys.
Taxpayers, but they would have the biggest impact on the high income taxpayers. But
First one. No fucking way. You.
continue the tax cuts for $400,000, and we propose ways because we are.
Let me pick the second one.
Concerned, and I think we should remain concerned about the
Crossing tray. Sticky one.
We propose ways to pay for it.
So yeah, I got two winners.
Overall, the CBO's.
No, I can't cheat. I'll do two more, so we can make it $100. I need Twitter crossing.
There aren't really
I'll pick two more, so we can make it $100.
cuts to Medicaid and SNAP particularly.
So it's not over yet, so don't give up. I can't believe you won. That's just crazy. And you put it in like 20 seconds before it's closing.
Potential tariff revenue that would come in and help offset that. Which
Let
could
me
also be
get
an
his
affiliate
info
that
first,
kind
and
of
I'll
tariff
pick two more.
rate stand. And then, you know,
Gotta
never
pay the
really
guy.
had that. Under the Biden administration, it's not like we didn't see the debt balloon either.
I mean, yeah, I can do that. It's fine.
Non-discretionary spending, non-defense discretionary spending.
Let me get his stuff
in
in.
the Biden administration
Let me pick
as a
two more.
share of GDP. some of the biggest causes,
The
really
next winner.
of
No,
the
you can't win, Smooth. You can't win. You already got the other one. Let someone else win. Sorry, Smooth. You're winning way too much today, dude. He won 50th, $100 Father's Day. Now you want just 20. No, can't do that. Give someone else. Sorry, I'm Xing you out, buddy.
a negative hanging over the
Alright, picking that up.
forecast for the budget deficit in the coming decade.
Infinity.
I wonder if you dip quickly into the stablecoin realm. Street's kind of excited
Oh, you got the hours.
that business
Okay.
model. There's been some high-profile IPOs. Today, there's a good report out of JP Morgan asking why there seems to be this renewed acceptance after so many stablecoins collapsed between 2016 and 2022. Has something changed?
Well, I think that is a very cautionary experience, the fact that stable coins.
I'm waiting on
promised,
Jess to message me back. If he doesn't, I'll pick someone else.
Pay back to the holders on a dollar.
You gotta be here to win.
And found themselves
And AQ's
incapable of
dropping.
doing it. And
What's up, Jen?
under my leadership, I guess it was in
Yeah, he's.
2022. the
Damn, that.
president
See, your 892 is gonna hit. Good shit, ISIS. There you go. You took your money, right?
We
The-
argued that it was very important to regulate.
Yeah, you gotta
them
take that profit. It's gonna go back
because,
up.
They could bring problems and losses for households. And
Well, take
create
some off.
financial stability risks. And my understanding.
Oh,
is
he did
that
reply
there
back.
is
Okay.
serious
I need your Twitter, Jess.
being given to some stablecoin legislation, but
Only got one.
what I've seen of it, the regulation.
Thank you. Let me get the
doesn't
info.
come close to being stringent enough in terms of the requirements that the funds be invested in absolutely safe assets like.
Oh, I didn't know that's you. I didn't know you were Neo. What's up, man?
The legislation would not create a sufficiently safe environment for stable coins. Really, they've had so far very
Sorry.
little use, and mainly are used for
Okay, let me pick one more.
transactions within platforms where cryptocurrencies are traded. And I am a skeptic about the potential uses of stable coins, at least private stable
Main
coins.
Sky.
But
Sorry.
nevertheless, to be, because they are allowed to be issued, we need a proper and safe regulatory framework.
Well, something for us to ask lawmakers as the Genius Act moves through Congress.
I mean, you got 14 points, so you're good. I just need your Twitter.
What do you think about the administration's approach to China right now? Because when I went with you on that trip, and you made a number of trips to China, your message to them was,
I don't
"You've
think
gotta
so.
rebalance. You've got to, take the savings right down."
Yo, Neo, check your Twitter. I need your stuff so I can pay you.
We're hearing the same message from this administration, from the Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary and the President. They're just going about it differently with tariffs and putting pressure on them with more export controls. And I wonder if you think that that's effective, because it is something you tried to do.
Well, I was interested to hear Secretary Bessent discuss the imbalance in China's economy and the fact that consumer spending is so low, which.
Yeah, I need your PayPal, Bitcoin, whatever you want, so I can send you the money.
In exports and in their trade balance. And that is exactly the same theme that I was discussing and discussed with actually the same counterpart of Vice Premier He Lifeng. And so I do think that's a good approach. But while I like hearing about that theme, I think it's important that this is a concern not only of the United States, but most advanced and many developing emerging markets. And we should be working in a coordinated way with other countries to push this agenda. I must say I'm confused about what the goals of the administration's China policy are. I know that they're focused on the overall trade deficit, which has been much less of a concern
Bitcoin,
of
crypto.
mine. It looks like the big beautiful or big ugly bill, which is my preference, is going to
Sure, I'd do that.
eliminate many of
Because-
the incentives for clean energy production in the
Uh-huh.
United States. And this is an area where I think we have significant grievances with China's enormous subsidies.
I'm gonna cut off the stream. Good luck, guys.
States could
I got your Twitter, so just message me back so I can pay you.
jobs. We use tariffs in a targeted